There's a dog at my work who is the cutest dog. She's a little one. All the other dogs, I get to see dogs at my job. It's wonderful. I've decided that anytime a dog comes near me and I can get their attention, some of them play hard to get, which is a little frustrating. But if I can get them to pay attention, I will pet them. They're like little therapy breaks. They're very literally my emotional support dogs. And there's a little one. Most of them are big and kind of old. They seem like they're all kind of born around the same time. It's like a little nursing home of dogs. They're not old, so old that it's getting sad, but they're they're not jumpy, bouncy around kind of dogs. There's two black ones that are like probably 50 pounders. There's a big husky that's probably the oldest, and there's this cute little tiny copper colored dog. Real adorable. And for the longest time, she finally got a haircut. It breaks my heart when animals or people can't see. Something about that just really hits me right in my emotion generator, and where I keep all my plaque. And this dog is so adorable. She had this big fuzzy head, this big fuzzy body, and they finally got a haircut. You see a dog that's got a haircut, like, whoa, shit, damn, thing is skinny, like a wet cat. But she comes up, she's got little steps, little patty steps. It's so cute. Seriously, man, I love it. I'm woodworking. I've become a woodworker. That's not my job. I'm back to the workforce, and I can go on about that, but I'm very grateful to have this job. I'm learning a lot, and such as how to prevent repetitive stress injuries. So these dogs come by because the owners have the dogs. They're the owners' dogs, and I put out good vibes. I consider myself part Labrador, and so the dogs like me, and because I like to give them a lot of attention for the aforementioned therapy that I use them for. But this little one comes by, and now that she can see, I think she has a little easier time getting around too, because it's got those curly hairs. It's just like, I always wonder, like, people, cover your dogs or fold it up, something. Get the dog those giant fake eyelashes so that at least there's a barrier to keep the hair out of the eyes. It's just something. Or a haircut. It just kills me. Maybe some steampunk goggles. That'd be fun. Anyway, she sort of waddles up, and she always has an intention. And it took me a little while to learn this, to just let it happen, is she wants to lick my leg. I don't know if she does this to everybody else. I don't watch her that closely. It'd be kind of weird if I did. And I wouldn't get jealous, frankly. I'm somewhat. I'm open-minded. Even, I could do polyamory probably for a little while. I mean, it's all fucking stupid, just as dumb as monogamy. I don't see why it's... Anyway, she likes to come up, and she really wants to give my leg a kiss. And she's got a warm, wet tongue. And at first I recoiled. I was like, ugh, what are you doing? I wouldn't like kick. I was just like, oh, no, it's okay. I'm much stronger than this dog. This dog probably weighs 11 pounds. My bicep weighs 11 pounds. Okay? The one on the right. Actually, I've been getting really fucking strong now that I've been doing woodworking all the time. It's there's a secret to getting strong. Like the body I was meant to have is starting to emerge. I gained a bunch of weight over all the stressful last few years. And I'm finally got my eating under control. Ice cream kept me alive as a therapeutic response. Ice cream, pizza, Chinese food, Mexican food, all the delicious stuff I was binging on. But now I'm back to just eating giant piles of salty meat and veggies and salads, and that's what we call keto. And it's doing great. I'm losing weight finally, but I'm also getting like fucking ripped compared to when I was a video editor. I've always suspected I have an athlete body. I'm pretty sure deep inside, under the blubber, there's a hot man body in there. And I think it's beginning to emerge. And all I had to do was wait until my 40s until I start working a manual labor job. Because that's the secret. The secret to working out, the secret to being in shape, is exercising for 40 hours a week. I'm only working 4 days, though, actually. So I'm only really doing about 8.5 hours. I do a bunch of woodworking on my own. I try to do my own stuff when I can, like on lunch breaks, or I can come in. It's one of the benefits. I get to go in and use a nice woodworking shop. It's really wonderful. And I have a little workshop on my balcony here at home, which is a real asset because a couple of other guys there don't have workshops at home, and I do, and I can actually get quite a lot done, even though it's a very small space. But I'm just exercising all the time. I'm just sanding mostly, lots of holding stuff, lots of carrying around big boards, lots of this, lots of wiping the sweat off my brow. And I'm standing a bunch. So I got a stool I can sit for a good chunk of the day, depending on what the day's tasks are. But when those dogs come by, I leap up no matter what, and I jump up and I clap my fingers, and I'm so happy to have a dog to pet. And I try to make eye contact, but not too intense. Dogs like gentle eye contact. They like soothing noises. They like, oh, I give them a lot of ooh. And trick I learned from my mom is to just I don't know if this is a trick, but it seems to resonate. Narrate your petting as you're doing the dog. Tell them what you're doing. Oh, get those ears, get those ears, get those ears. Ooh, oh, the shoulder, right shoulder, left shoulder. Do that. It's just fun. Make it fun. But that gives you a reason to connect your voice and your soothing voice with the animal, and they feel it. And I think that's one reason dogs like me. Human children like me, not because I do any petting, but I talk to them like they're people with full sentences. And I think kids tend to like that kind of thing. At least the 10% who haven't had their brains rotted by their parents' phones and their own phones. And although I don't interact with children very much, thank God. But yeah, full body. I like doing the full body. That's one of my moves. You get the head, the neck, the back, the tail, and I go full body. And that's the dog thing. So this dog comes up. She's cute. She's and she comes in for the lick. Now that it's getting a little colder, I'm wearing pants. Got some nice REI pants at a thrift store. Could you believe it? I couldn't. $15 fucking dollars, man. When I was a kid, thrift store pants were $7. I don't really, but anyway, so now I'm wearing pants and I feel bad because I can't offer my luxuriously somewhat salty, very dusty skin for this poor little cute dog to come up and lick. And she really wants to. I've tried to stop her by just like petting her first, but then she just will go for it. Like an old person at a casino heading for the Stargate SG-1 blackjack machine. I meant to say slot machine, as if that would have made more sense. And I just realized I'm just going to have to let her lick my leg. She has to. And I have to respect that. And it's a little bit, I can do a maximum of 3 before it gets weird. Because to be truthful, it is pretty inappropriate workplace behavior. There's not it's a small company. There's no HR department really, so I can't necessarily report the dog. And I'm not going to Google it because God knows what you'll find. But yeah, so I guess the conclusion is if a elderly dog seems to have it out for your tasty skin, just let her have a little, just a little touch, just a little touch. I really am. I'm so happy that there are dogs at work. They're not always there, but when I do see them, I'm like, yeah. And they try to get at, like a couple of them are wily. One of them, the one that really plays hard to get, looks just like the other black one. I think they're siblings. And luckily one of them's ear is bent down, and that's the friendly one. They're both nice, but the one that just doesn't give a shit if you try to get its attention. It won't even really, it might like turn its head slightly if you make a noise. And I kind of like that dog. That one has its own independent streak that is very seductive in a sense. Yeah, the dogs are wonderful. Every workplace needs dogs. I get it. The therapy thing. Any kind of therapy animal. Therapy cats, dogs, fish. You guys are watching it on YouTube. You're watching the Shrimp Squad having at it. They're having their dinner or supper if they really want to use the appropriate word that the bourgeoisie likes to say. But yeah, there should be dogs everywhere. There needs to be more. We need therapy for all. We need therapy. We should be a therapy-based economy for about 3 or 4 generations. Honestly, that's what's so fucked up in this country is everybody's stressed by their parents' stress, who are stressed by their parents' stress. We have We have deeply rooted threads of generational trauma flowing like rivers of pink ooze throughout the entire land in this country, and it is rotting our brains, and we all need therapy. Our hearts are broken, and we need to grow the fuck up. Masculinity, femininity, all needs to just become humanity. What am I writing speeches for Andrew Yang, that fucking grifter? The Forward Party. Forward my... You know why? Because old people like to send forward emails. That was the thing. Do they still do that? I don't know. Andrew Yang. I think I would prefer him over probably most any corrupt, horrible Democrat or Republican, I guess. But he is just one of those like technocratic guys who's just pulling. He's like an advanced grifter. He's just keeping ahead of the curve. He's like one of those guys, they have those surfboards that also have they're like those, there's that thing in ocean technology where there's like a spike or a thing that goes down and then a blade that's under it. And then somehow the surfboard rises up and the blade stays down in it. It works with those, billionaire races where they race the giant spaceships, sailboats around the Oracle shit. Not School of the Americas. That's when America sent troops to train people how to kill socialists and nuns and indigenous people so that our corporations can make money. There's a race, the America's Cup, I think. Anyway, what am I saying? Oh, Andrew Yang is just basically the guy who's got like the latest technology in terms of how he's running a grift here. He's gaining profile. He's gaining public accolades. It's probably pretty fun to be famous compared to his bid for presidency worked tremendously as an investment in his future. Fame is extremely monetizable in this country. And that's also what's so disgusting about our permanent election system. Anyway, that's not what the hell. What the fuck why am I around with Andrew Yang? He came into TYT once, and good vibes. I gotta say, I didn't get a bad vibe off of him. Not that you can tell much from when he walked in and said a couple things and walked past him. But he seems like just not like I didn't get the sense I'd be worried about like he could probably plan a trip. Get a map quest. Pick a campsite somewhere in Utah, pick one in Colorado, get a list of hotels or something, make some phone calls. Good vibes. Good guy. Fucking so dumb. Welcome back, guys. It's the show again. Winners and Losers on YouTube and on it's not on Spotify. It's on fucking Libsyn. Been paying for that this whole time. And we're doing this. Today we're going to talk about the Young Turks, though. I have a lot to catch everybody up on. People who are watching me on Suck Professor might have enjoyed, I hope so, the Valheim playthrough. I still have some videos for that to make, and I hit a wall this summer. This is my trademark move where I reach a turbulent phase of this constant burnout. But this was probably the worst one I've had, and actually had a pretty bad meltdown just from stress. My fucking hair is falling out. You can see my beard here. I have a big old patch missing. I hope it doesn't get bigger. I have another one here. There's a few different spots on my body where my body hair is going bald, which is doesn't feel great. That doesn't help the anxiety or the stress levels. Although I'm trying to stay zen about it. I don't think freaking out is the best answer, and that's also one reason I'm trying to eat better and take care of myself and try to sleep better. And I'm all these things I'm getting better at. But I think this is stress related. It started last year, some point in the fall. I had grown out my beard nice and big hunky masculine beard, and then I trimmed that back, and there was like a empty spot, like a bunch of children had been playing soccer, like some aliens had visited an Iowa cornfield, to put the corns up their butts. That's what they do. That's where they get their probes. And so yeah, it's alopecia or something. I don't know. Is there ever gonna be a doctor involved? Of course not. Hell no. Who could possibly see a doctor? I work all the time, but and have paid taxes my whole life. But no, billionaires need to spend their money on space. They need to go up to space and take Captain Kirks with them. Elon Musk should answer Jeff Bezos for bringing up William Shatner by bringing up Kate Mulgrew. And I'm not going to explain who that is, because if you don't know who that is, then you can go fuck yourself, okay? It's Captain Catherine Janeway of the USS Federation Starship Voyager, all right? Best captain. She whoops Dr. Xavier Picard, Jean-Luc. No, they're all great. All the captains are good. Benjamin Sisko, come on. Fucking great guy. Loves baseball. All right, so that's the red meat. That's the red meat for the Star Trek fans in the audience. Yeah, today we're I really wanted to, like, what I've been conceptualizing, bringing the podcast back. Am I done rambling about the meltdown? Let me just think for a second. I cried in front of my roommate. That was fucked up. And then I started having breathing problems. I couldn't breathe. I had like and I got real like sensitive to noise. Like I'm normally kind of sensitive to sound. I just don't like loud areas or loud things. I get distracted by noises, like concerts. I remember going to concerts much younger and just was miserable. Just the forcing to go because it felt like socially what you had to do, or loud bars. None of that. None of that sounds good. I'd go to a Bob Ross concert or like an Adele show maybe. But anyway, I got really like fucked. It was like going on for a few months, and I was like, I'm like way more sensitive to sound. I'd like my whole body would just flex at noise, and just stressing about money, stressing about anxiety, stressing about a lot of the shit we're going to talk about today. This whole union thing with the Young Turks, a lot of great news with it, or some recent great news. Yeah, so hair's falling out, anxiety meltdown, all this pressure I put on myself with all this podcasting. I don't do a lot with the podcasting, the entertainment career, and all this stuff. This annoying impulse to speak and to talk and to write and to be a funny person and to try to figure out a way to make this a career. It's been rough. It's been hard, and I keep bringing the podcast back. And I'll probably just post this and then I might go away for a while. I'm not promising to do this again soon. There's a topic today that we were going to get into that really has compelled me to put this one together. Of course, it took way longer than I thought, and it took a whole bunch of work getting it all done. But the closest I've done to a lot of podcasting lately is probably the Valheim playthrough. I mentioned that. That's on Suck Professor. It's just me playing a video game. But I ramble about bullshit the whole time, kind of. I play the game, and I still want to do that. It's fun. It's sort of just gives you something to react to, and then you think of stuff and you say shit. So, yeah, days are going by, weeks are going by, and I'm better now that I got this job. That was a big help because one of the biggest stresses for me was money and rent, debt, and just like being able to cover my bills, which I still can't yet. I can't pay all my bills, but I can pay almost all, which is pretty good. And it's in woodworking. And you guys know, if you guys are regular, I've been doing a shit ton of woodworking on my own and making videos for woodworking, but kind of hoping to somehow turn that into something. And this is, I didn't realize how much skills I had developed, or at least I had developed enough woodworking skills to get me a woodworking job when I applied for one. Yeah, and the guy was like, oh yeah, you got skills, you got experience. I was like, what? Oh, I guess I do. All right. So, but it's entry level, and I'm learning how to use professional machines, and it's fucking cool. I'm doing stuff. It's real work. There's some jobs, man. Video editing is one of them too. You can't really screw around with video editing because you got to get crap done. Every job has its own easier rapids than harder rapids, or green hill or black diamond hills. That's a skiing thing for you poor people out there. And this job doesn't have that. It has ways of doing things smart or more efficient, but there's no you can't just show up and move your mouse around every couple hours and then go home at the end of the day, like a lot of jobs, like bullshit jobs. But that's okay. I mean, the hours go by. I load up some podcasts. I listen to a lot of shows and stuff and history things, and some mostly still politics and stuff like that. A lot of labor history, labor reporting. And I go to work and I get sweaty and I try to not hurt myself. I've had a back injury, wrist injury, chronic wrist injury from a previous thing that never got treated. That's actually not dogging me as much as I was worried it would. And I have an elbow thing. So my arm is still very strong, but I can't reach the right. I can't, it's just something's goofy about the way I can fully extend it. It doesn't hurt all the time, but it's always about to be hurt. It's not quite. But yeah, it's good. I'm learning and I'm laying a foundation for other stuff in the woodworking world, which would be fun. Cause now that I've actually had this for a few months, my meltdown seems to be averted. The nuclear rods that were firing off that needed to be covered in borium or whatever, beryllium. I don't know. I watched that HBO show. Have been, the reactor is back. I don't know what I'm trying to say. things are okay, and I'm actually finally able to produce some other stuff. Produce, I hate that word, but like I made a TikTok. I've actually become a TikTok influencer star. There's no other word for it. I think I've got like 3 likes maybe. I go to Wicklock on TikTok, WIKLOK on TikTok, and you'll find it. It's the Winners and Losers TikTok account. I made an egg salad video. All right. And I'm sure all those highfalutin fuckheads in the egg salad TikTok were stunned by the arrival of this strange interloper from nowhere, America. Much like when the golden shower community was disrupted early in Donald Trump's presidency, when everybody realized he may have had urine on him or something, which a lot of that might have been made up, but that's incredibly plausible too. We all started tweeting hashtag golden shower, and it was devastating for the golden shower community. A small group of people simply having a good time, using that hashtag as it was intended to share enthusiasm for people who are into the hobby, suddenly had their lives washed away like jellyfish poison. There has to be somebody that was annoyed by that their golden shower hashtag was being taken over by the hordes of the madness that surrounds Donald Trump and both the haters and the lovers. What am I rambling about? Fuck. It's been a while, you can tell. Still got the great voice, getting a great body. Looking forward to having sex again. I'm so horny, and it's so fucking annoying. It is such a scam, this horniness. I'm in my 40s. I thought it was supposed to taper off by now. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you lose perspective, but I feel like I'm as horny as I was when I was a fucking 17-year-old balding piece of shit. No, I wasn't. No, the balding started when I was 19. Going through another round. But no, I don't want to just date because of the horniness. Although I think finding someone whose horniness levels, sort of, can't just be like different. You got to kind of resonate. You want that congruency. I'm a rhombus and she's a rhombus. No. Okay. But no, I want to date again soon. And for the loneliness too, the crushing, desperate loneliness that makes going forward, a horrifying nightmare and all that. I want to have something to look forward to, and dating can give you that. It can come with downsides. It can, you get vulnerable. You got to explain. Now I got a date with this fucking patch on my face. One of my neighbors, a young lady who I've gotten to know, and she's cool. She come because I'm on my balcony. I get to see neighbors and they walk by, and I mentioned it because I was self-conscious. Unfortunately, there's still enough ego in me that I care. And she goes, "Oh, I just thought it was like a design, like it was on purpose." It's like, I didn't. It does have sort of a symmetry to it that does look like it's on purpose, but it would be an odd choice so. Yeah, we're back. It's good to be back. You can tell I'm just sort of rambling. I have so much to get into right now. We're going to talk about the Young Turks, and first the good news, and then I want to detail the union busting that went on. I know there's been reporting about it. There was a Huffington Post article, Indies Times did a story, the New Republic did a story, and Politico did a story. There might be other stuff out there, and there's been lots of attention to the union busting from much from the right, some from like left outlets, perspectives, I should say, but very, very little from like any prominent left voices. And there's a lot of confusion surrounding the union busting at the Young Turks, and it's been going on for the busting, I guess, ended when the union voted themselves the second time after coming forward with the first election in February of 2020. It took until April 9th until they had the second election after a whole bunch of union busting went down during that period. We're going to get into that. And then there was a long negotiation process. And I kind of purposely, although as I've kind of been laying out, I've been a little out of it. but I was intentionally not trying to throw my voice out there too much about it. I probably absolutely could have done a lot more, but I just didn't. I felt like I needed to let this process happen without me shaking the branches or raising a bunch of commotion about it. Not that I have any reach. That's one other thing here. No one listens to what the fuck I have to say. I don't have anywhere near the audience or the signal boost capacity as TYT and their brass there and the higher ups and the hosts and stuff. And so like, yeah, what went on with union busting seems, and I've still seen this narrative out there. So that's partially why I'm doing this, is because I want to at least offer my perspective on the narrative and contradict, because it really bothers me that the only people in charge of the narrative right now are the people who did the union busting. The union themselves, they have a voice, and I'm not speaking for them. They have a great way of, they have their Twitter account. In fact, here, let's turn that on here. And they deserve to be, so I'm not suggesting that I'm speaking for the Young Turks Union at all in this. I'm going to, what I have to say resonates probably with a lot of their interests, and where I am confident in things, I will tell you, and where I'm speculating, I will also tell you. I pride myself on not being super confident about stuff. And I think acknowledging your ignorance is a great way to sort of use the inverse of confidence to say, this is what I'm not totally sure about. Because I consider myself to be persuadable. And I think when you try to be persuadable, that also is a way of becoming persuasive, because I think it speaks to a reticence to just jump to wild conclusions or something like that. And I'm sure I fail at that too, because it's kind of hard not to just fall into some of the more emotional traps that come along with these types of things. Because this has all been very emotional and personal. And I did do a podcast about it way back in like March or April or something. Yeah, actually, yeah, it was on the day of the election, Super Tuesday, when Cenk Uygur was running for office, because he was a politician and he was running to become a congressman in Washington, in California 25. So I remember, yeah. And I'm trying to take a diplomatic tone here too, because I hope more than anything that people understand that this is not about trying to cause harm to TYT or hurt them. I think they need to live up to their principles. I don't think they have been, particularly the one about truth and honesty. But I think there's a way forward for them that I hopefully will be very rewarding, because there's a lot of good people who work there primarily, and I wouldn't, not even primarily, but like in equality to the audience. The audience deserves for TYT to survive and do well, and continue to push progressive candidates and provide a platform for progressive policies and principles. I'm being very nice right now. I could go way. I could take not darker, but I could take different approaches to this. If this ends up becoming personal, then those are the probably pathways that'll eventually come out, I imagine. But I don't need to stress. It's all been miserable. My fucking hair is falling out. I don't have it. This is not fun at all. I'm trying to make it fun. I hope it's interesting. I'm trying to be entertaining. I don't know if I am. I have this psychotic comedian brain that needs to have a voice or whatever. But so that's all the rambling. Let's just get into the TYT. Let's see if this comes up. Okay. But since the Young Turks has finally ratified the contract with TYT Union, I feel like it's okay to speak up a little bit more about this stuff. And I guess I'll get into that more now. But yeah, it's great news that they finally ratified the contract. You can see it here in the tweet on screen. We're thrilled to announce we unanimously ratified our first IATSE union contract with the Young Turks. Details in the thread. So here's what they secured. We secured just cause, raised hourly minimums, severance, and many more protections for our unit. We're proud of our strong contract and are excited to support other workers win the same. That's nice. Solidarity, my friends. Just quick backstory, just in case some people are going to come at this and wonder why I'm talking about it. I helped start this union. There's a podcast on this channel that I've done way back where I really explain a lot of it. But I don't like to say I started it. That's not right. They'd already had a contact with IATSE from before, but they got scared off by a bunch of firings that went on. So there were already issues going on that needed to be addressed. And when I was working there were issues as well. And I kind of was sort of the elbow nudger. That's sort of the role I'm comfortable saying. Like, I kind of was like, hey, everybody, nudge, 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 wink, wink, eyebrow raise. Let's talk. And then, as those body signals become words, you start having whispery conversations. And that all started like months and months and months before Cenk's campaign began. And I'm mentioning that because that's one of the things we're going to talk about a whole bunch this time, this one. So, fucking great news. It's just such a good thing. So here is it switching? Yes, it is. Okay. So here's this EIN press wire. There hasn't been much reporting on this. Union agreement ratified between members of TYT's bargaining unit and IATSE. So this is great. TYT celebrates this moment of progress and looks forward to continued collaboration with its employees and growing its relationship with IATSE. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Don't worry. This is the second paragraph. TYT appreciates the value and hard work its employees bring to support the company's mission to boldly pursue truth. There's that word. Truth. Bold. You got to be bold about truth. Can't just be truthful. Can't just have that be a default. You got to put an adverb in front of it. And you got to chase it. Get back here, truth. I'm pursuing truth. Challenge the establishment and drive positive change. So it's been ratified. That's great. There was one, for nearly 2 decades. TYT has regularly highlighted the importance of worker rights, whether around issues of higher wages. Oh, that sounds nice. Workplace safety or union organizing. Yes, I was the first one to point out that all the spiked bowling balls should not have been kept on the ceiling, held by fishing line. That's workplace safety. That would I'm not sure. Well, there was like death threats that constantly happened, I guess, and there was it's fucked up. Things got real scary there. I didn't know of they didn't come and tell me, but Cenk's nephew Hassan, who had a job at TYT for a long time, I used to edit a bunch of his videos. Was not his primary editor. Mostly I did editing for Francis Maxwell, the one and only. But when he got picked up by right-wing media for saying that America deserved 9/11, in the context he meant it was a poor choice of words, but he explained it, but he had to apologize. It created a big ruckus because this country's filled with really angry, psychotic, gun-owning, gun-having, violent people. Lots of distressed, broken men in this country. Plenty of broken women too. Not leaving you ladies out of the equation. Don't worry. We're all fucked up. Fucked up white people is America's oldest tradition. But anyway, that was probably when the feeling of being under threat at TYT was at its highest, because you kind of just had a sense that, oh crap, and they brought in some safety experts, so that was nice. We sure needed it. Anyway, I don't know why I'm rambling about that. That's not what I was trying to get at. TYT has always supported worker rights to organize. Oh, they have. Oh, weird. Always supported workers' right to organize. That doesn't sound accurate. Is that truthful? Well, I guess you'll just have to hold off your judgment on that one. And it's proud to be part of this progress. Providing a platform to amplify the progressive causes has been central to the TYT's mission, and an attitude of collaboration by all team members has been instrumental in helping TYT become America's largest progressive network. Who wrote this? TYT! Oh, shit. TYT wrote that. Okay. So the only announcement about the union so far has been TYT focused. Okay. It is good news, I guess. I mean, not I guess, but I wish there'd been more press about this. There's a lot going on in labor right now. There's a big strike at John Deere. There's the IATSE is having this incredible moment in the sun where people are waking up and realizing how abusive. And IATSE is a union that we were joining at the Young Turks. Although, to be clear, the strike actions that might be coming up with IATSE, they just had some tentative deal that now has to be voted on, and it sounds like it's terrible. So it seems like there's gonna be pushback. I have no idea what's going on right now, but the Young Turks union, I'm pretty sure, is not part of that, because there's carve outs for digitals, or it's they have their own negotiation. I think I saw them tweet that out. So they're not going to be going on strike. It doesn't fit into that, but it is within the IATSE umbrella organization. IATSE being the union that the Young Turks was aggressively attacking. So good job, TYT. Let's just celebrate this ratification. I'm hoping there's a party. We had the first organizing meeting at my apartment in secret. That was exciting. It was probably one of the few days I felt hope. That morning, everybody showed up. I bought coffee cake, and it was horrible. The coffee cake was shit. I bought it at Vons, and it sucked. The goo was all missing. There was hardly any goo. It was just a sheen of goo, the red goo and the white stripes, the stripy goo. And it was just mostly dry bread. And I just really regret that that's the coffee cake I provided for that day, for that morning. And people were impressed. It's amazing how little it takes to impress people. Wow, you got coffee cake. Yeah, well, I got coffee cake for all you motherfuckers. So if we have a ratification party, which I hope we do, and I hope I'm invited, I am going to go get like a real ass, clog your heart, kill your brain kind of coffee cake. And I'm going to force everybody to fucking eat some of that coffee cake. I need to rectify the coffee cake. There's a symbolism to it that I haven't yet figured out, but it is important for me that I bring really good coffee cake. Slivered almonds. Okay. Slivered fucking almonds. Is this shit still recording? Just a quick update for anybody who's brand new. I worked there for a long time, starting in 2013. I worked as a full-time employee for a little while. Then I did freelance publishing for them because I was good at writing headlines. I worked on the Jimmy Dore show, graphics editing, behind the scenes stuff, and on air stuff during the 2016 time period. Then I split up, or went away for a stretch, came back, kept in touch, came back and started again in 2018, working full-time hours as video editor, replacing someone who was changing from their full-time video editing position to a producer role. So I took on that job, and I edited the Jimmy Dore, the Aggressive Progressive with Jimmy Dore, the Breakdown with Francis Maxwell, Happy Half Hour with Brett Ehrlich. And I could fill in, there was another one. What the hell? I think I would know that. I could fill in and edit any other show too, because I was part of the editing team. So mainly as a video editor, and I got to go on air. Okay, I have some shit about that. My background, just briefly, just to show people that I am not, I'm not just some schmuck who worked at TYT a little bit or something like that. I want people to kind of get a sense for the breadth of my involvement with the company. Let's hope this comes up. There it is. Okay, cool. So just to show the timeline here, you might be able to pick out me. This is a little Where's Waldo there for you, standing there in the back. This is from the Mad as Hell film trailer, documentary about Cenk working at MSNBC and stuff in the early years of TYT. I just started working at this time. Here, let's zoom in. See, there I am. See that? There I am in the back. Check it out. Look at all those people. There's me. I had just started working there, so I really shouldn't really be in this documentary. I kind of was like, I'll just stand in the back, but I'm tall and bald, and so easy to spot. Nothing easier. If you're gonna have a husband or a spouse who you got to pick up somewhere or pick out of a crowd, tall and bald guy, it's a good one. And I'll put like a plunger on my head if you need, maybe a disco ball on top of it. So there's always good. All right. Anyway, yeah. So I'm in the back, and I'm just like, yeah, I shouldn't really be here. I didn't really have much. I mean, I did have some history with the early days of TYT. A friend of mine at the time, we were friends. I introduced him to the Young Turks because I was like a really early fan of TYT, one of the first 1,000 or something paying members way back in the day. And he wound up working for TYT, and that was like a contact I had that got me in there when I started doing video editing and shit. So yeah, there I am. It's good. Oh, okay. Sorry, my true nature. So that's at the billion views party. That's like 2014. And here's a group photo of Elizabeth Warren came to visit in her trademark same clothing she always. I notice when people do that. I don't think that's necessarily a knock. Madeleine Albright would do that. But Madeleine Albright would wear the exact same clothing that she wore on the picture on the cover of her book, which is a little bit intense. Just like, come on, switch to blue. You don't have to wear green. Ronald McDonald does it. So Elizabeth Warren does it. So I'm in this photo. You can probably pick me out there. Like, here we go. Oh, see, look, there it is. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Pretty good. That's nice. That's what I look like in bright lights. It's just something surprised me there. That's actually me finding out that Elizabeth Warren wasn't going to endorse Bernie. So, yep, another one here. This is way back too. I was a cameraman for the best show on TYT. Another perfect management decision at the Young Turks, hiring this fucking numbnuts, this stupid idiot, this smooth-brained dullard, Dave Rubin, at the Rubin Report. That's cool cameras, man. That was at YouTube. I really wasn't sure what I was doing, but I knew how to like turn my hands. It's kind of like driving a motorcycle, except without the. Well, it's pretty much exactly the same. So yeah, that's me right there. And okay. See, I told you we're gonna make this fun. This is fun. I agree, and thank you for the free photos. There's deposit photos or Shutterstock, whatever. And here's our picture of me driving. That's just me on my way to work. That's fun. I talk on my phone. That's right. Probably ordering a pizza, which is honestly not recommended when you don't have a digestive system. These are pictures of skeletons for anybody listening to the audio. Sorry, that's so here's a little montage. I hope this audio comes through. This is back in the early days. I'm not going to narrate every single one of these. I might a little bit. But this is when I just on my morning jog here when I used to work on one of my first jobs was directing and editing, publishing, and doing all sorts of shit for the Jimmy Dore show, setting up the studio. We had these cool robot cameras and a jib. And this is the set there. And this is before, a different building. So that's me on my morning jog. Look at that. That's fun. Oh, I'm just going to let the rest of this play. You'll get a sense that I was involved on TYT and on camera stuff. Although I don't have any videos of me massaging marijuana the lizard. I used to go put my hands on camera. You could see it like right before where some hands would massage marijuana. That was me. Oftentimes. I don't know if they still do it. Yeah, hopefully they do. But I'm just going to play this. You'll get a sense for some of the stuff I got to do.
Hi, my name's Hank. I'm an editor here at TYT, and my talent is that I can fold a fitted sheet. And there you go. It's really on.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I got it.
No, it's not. Oh, my God.
I gotta taste it.
This is how all the world leaders are getting their skin done lately.
Yeah, somebody detached one, and it cost $10,000 in damage. And then the sun and the word regret.
Always on a laugh. Got a big laugh off of that one. There you go. Now, if that's not surplus value, I don't know what is. So I had a lot of shit. I did a lot of stuff with TOT. That's just the on-air stuff. I love doing the on-air shit. It was always the best part. When I worked at Jimmy Dore, I just talking and being, I wasn't really on camera. Oh yeah, I did get that. Fuck, I got a shit, whatever. I didn't get on camera because they didn't do cameras. He was the only one on camera at the time. And then they switched over to multiple camera angles. And so, yeah. So here's the announcement that TYT is up. I honestly am concerned that they're probably going to want to copyright strike me on this or something. I know that millions of people, I don't know, it's millions, but so many others use their footage and all sorts of stuff. And I really would hope that this is fair use, because this is fair use. But I'm pretty sure they don't like me. I'm pretty sure I'm like a bad guy to them. I'm sure I make people angry, especially with when you kind of get to the gist of the video we're making today. Yeah, that's a lot to process in that one. So they might copyright strike this. I'm going to make sure this stays into the like Libsyn feed, but if it ends up on copyright strike on YouTube, I'll have to re-edit it or something. So we're not going to play this whole 3-minute video, but there's just a couple chunks. Cenk has an announcement here about the union.
I want to tell you guys about good news here at TYT. We have ratified an agreement with IATSE.
Nice. Although it's funny how the auto captioning spells IATSE, AYATSI. Actually, that's kind of close. Good enough. So he's got like a nice chipper attitude, belying the super aggressive union busting that went on before.
Great, because it looks out for our employees, which we always wanted to do and have done. We've done throughout our entire history.
Always looked out for their employees. Always. We'll see. No, I don't think it's actually much that's out of bounds of like normal capitalist, out of touch work culture that's standard in America. But yeah, but here's the part that kind of rankled me, other than like the sort of overall deceptive tone of this. calling it a bumpy start.
And easy. Our relationship got off to a bumpy start in the beginning.
Bumpy start in the beginning. Bumpy start. Okay, let's look at the bumpy start. I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. We've got some, I got a graphic prepared. We'll get back to that a little bit maybe. I don't know. I'm really just flying through this. So here's the TYT Union busting playbook. This took all day fucking, not this graphic, but I had, just getting ready for this took forever. I was really wanting to just record it, talk for like a half hour and be done. That never fucking works. So these are the things that have been written about. As I mentioned before, let's see, let me switch over to different. There's been articles written. There were 4 different like journalistic research from like established journalists articles written. One was in Huffington Post. You see here the headline: the Young Turks progressive founder urged his staff not to unionize. Subheading: in a tense meeting with employees, Cenk Uygur argued that a union doesn't belong at a small news network struggling to make profits. In these times, did a piece by Hamilton Nolan. This is the first one. The Huffington Post was dated February 24th. March 5th, Hamilton Nolan in these times. The Young Turks union fight gets nastier with charges of retaliatory firing, withholding raises. Whoa, that's not really looking out for, workers, promoting workers' rights. First, just rejecting card check right off the bat, refusing to voluntarily recognize the first election that the workers had to bring a union into the company. So there's this article. I'm not going to read all these. I kind of want to do separate videos about each one, but maybe I will. I don't know, but that's not the point right now. Kim Kelly, really great labor reporter, another March 5th, 2020. The myth of the progressive boss, Cenk Uygur, subheading. Cenk Uygur talked a good game about the Young Turks being the premier progressive media outlet. Then his staff tried to unionize. She interviewed me for this one. It was an email interview. So yeah, if you would read this one, I got some quotes in here. Good stuff. Good stuff. Here, I'll just read a quick quote here from me. As Thompson said, TYT is staffed by liberals, progressives, and lefties. Of course, the notion of organizing to demand better would come up. Who did Cenk think would come work for him? Zing. Nah, it's not even a zing. But yeah, I'm quoted a bunch in that one. That one's fun. I'm always afraid of this one because this one gives you that, like, this is the first of 3 free articles. Like, no, I need to put it on YouTube. So that one's worth reading. And then there was the Politico article. Inside, this is dated April 10th, so more time had gone by. Inside the union campaign that roiled left-wing network The Young Turks, progressive firebrand Cenk Uygur, the CEO, put intense pressures on staffers not to unionize. So he really turned up the screws. Following just about every trick in the playbook. I mean, he didn't hire the Pinkertons. There weren't any like, groups of armed goons shooting at us or me or the workers there, the union people, as in the past. But had this all gone down in the past, I don't know, who knows? Like, they used every damn playbook, every move in the book, although there's always new innovations in the way companies do union anti-union efforts, and they hire union avoidance law firms, and they just it's a big thing there. When you're of the disposition that you do not want to cede any power to the people whose work and talent makes your dream come true, you'll pull out all the stops. And he's got a nice pile of member money to fund all the union busting too, because this shit can't be cheap, right? I don't know what they spend on it, but it seems like something the audience deserves to know. More on that later. So these are the 4 primary sources for this information I'm about to share. So TYT's union busting playbook. Let's just go quickly through this. Rejected card check. That one made Bernie frown. Withholding raises and bonuses. Captive audience meetings. Challenged composition of bargaining unit. Insisting on a second election more favorable to the company. They wanted to have the election in a small conference room outside the boss's office. Not anything close to the same as having an election that already occurred, which was what card check was. Emails from CEO pleading to not unionize. Claims that the unionization is unaffordable, suggesting that, no, of course you can't have a union. We can't afford any wage increases. This is going to break us. You're going to hurt the company. Claims that the wage increases would take from other workers. Oh, you want a wage increase, but that means we have to take away from somebody else. You really want to do that to your fellow workers there? That's a horrible, that one really pisses me off. Firing a worker in the bargaining unit the morning after Cenk lost his election. They made it seem like they were splitting his the managerial duties of the company, running the company, from his campaign duties as a politician, which is the right thing to do. That's ethically appropriate. But they didn't fire the guy until the day after his election, which indicates that they definitely were using company considerations in changing company decisions based on his election chances. Once he knew he lost, then he was free to fire the guy. And it was somebody who, and there's actually some legal proceedings that are still ongoing related to that one. Hiring management side law and consultant firms. This one I've not seen much reporting on. There's been one tweet. Means TV did a little segment about it that we'll probably see. And publicly spreading conspiracy lies and misinformation, re the boss's political career. This is the one we're going to dig into today. This bottom one here, because that's the one that started right out of the gate. The first two, I guess, were rejecting the card check because they didn't want to volunteer. Now, they will say that, no, we did want to voluntarily recognize after the second election. But that's not, that it's a well-known union busting tactic is to say, no, we don't believe the first one. We just need to see who's in the bargaining unit. Maybe we want to add a couple of scabs to it. Maybe we want to change things around. Maybe we want to, and we want to have it in a room outside the boss's office. And it's going to take a little time so we can sort of massage people and freak people out and create intensities in the workplace that are going to maybe make people realize that, you really shouldn't be for worker rights. It's all part of delay. It's all a big union busting tactic that they went for. And why does all their union busting tactics seem like they're just out of the standard playbook? Because they hired some law firms and some consultancies to tell them what to do. You'll see. I have proof of it, or at least I have enough that other journalists should be asking questions. Oh yeah, another frown from Bernie on that one. And these are the sourcings of these stories. Each of these is referenced. The two political ones that reference a tweet, that is from the writer Alex Thompson. And he has a Twitter thread where he has the text of Cenk's emails. So none of these are disputed by the company. I mean, they might dispute the wording, or they might say, like I said, about the involuntary recognition thing or something. But these are all written about in these articles, and if the company could refute them, they probably would have, because it doesn't make the company look good to have all this on their record. So,
and easy, our relationship got off to a bumpy start.
That's the bumpy start. That's the bumpy start right here. Bumpy start. Aggressively going after the workers who are trying to exercise their right to form a union. And the bottom one is the one that I want to get into here. Publicly spreading conspiracy lies and misinformation about the boss's career. So, all right. I want this to be over so much. Let's see. Let's just a couple more of here from Cenk's thing. This is where he brings up the AMTPT. Actually, no, we're going to get back to that. Here's another one, though.
So one of the reasons I tell you is because it's good news. The other reason I tell you is because there's nonstop lies about us online. So if you hear one of those, it ain't true. Here we are. We got a union at TYT, and it was very straightforward.
And it was very straightforward. The union busting was pretty clear. It was pretty straightforward. There are people out there that don't want or that might be spreading lies. I mean, that's his choice of words. They are the targets of a lot of animosity from various sectors of the whole political online taco sphere ecosystem. Jimmy Dore and Cenk have been having very public spats, which is strange for me because I have an extremely unique perspective. I worked for both of those guys. I worked for both of those guys as a worker, which is what it is when you work for somebody. And the experience of working for both of them ended my fandom of them. So to the degree that I have any voice on that matter, it's from the perspective of somebody who had to take orders from them. Who, you know how like that whole, like people make a whole very lucrative careers off of your labor. That's the role I played in that. So I do actually agree with this one.
And the last thing is to put pressure on the other companies. What are you guys doing? If we could pay those wages and healthcare at this point, and we just got there, we barely got to.
It didn't bankrupt it wasn't, and they do have the money to pay the higher wages. I don't know what the wage bump was. When I was working there, I was making $21.63 an hour. So in part of this video, they make the claim that they're like paying like industry standard. That's like There was a report, or not a report, but like a survey list, a Google Doc thing from some like, I don't know if it was a Blue Collar Post Collective or, some information sheet where people fill out what their roles are, where they are, and what they're paid. And like the median pay for video editing in Montana was $23 an hour, making $21.63 as an experienced video editor with a long history with the company, who also brought a lot of other creative energy to the company and other, I did some on-air stuff or whatever. That was like insulting, but it was enough to pay my bills just barely. But I live in Los Angeles. It's expensive as shit here, man. So they certainly got a good deal on it. And I needed the work. I was grateful for it. It kept organic material in my face, which is all all any of us really ever hopes for.
We barely got to the point where I think we could afford it, right? And thanks to our members and everyone else, and thank you for making that possible so that we all win through this show, this network, etc. You tell me Amazon can't pay those same wages? I mean, I look at those.
Amazon could definitely afford $21.63 an hour, probably, for a video editor. But I do like the part where he challenges other companies like this.
And then
I reset it a little bit.
The last thing is to put pressure on the other companies.
Okay, so like when we were doing this union drive, before the company knew about it, I think it's safe to say, and I hope my comrades in TYT Union, if they hear this, they disagree, but I probably would have been on the leadership committee or the team or something. I definitely was part of probably like one of the leaders of it, having more history with the company than anybody else in the union, and being kind of a loudmouth jackass who's willing to speak up like that. It's usually something you want in a leader, not necessarily always. Not like Captain Catherine Janeway, my favorite leader. But I was imagining that it was probably not going to be fun when we came forward, and they almost certainly, because when you work somewhere, how the sausage gets made, kind of the disposition, how parents know like if their baby's pee smells weird, like you get that, you develop a sense like that when you work at a company, and we knew they weren't going to like it. Of course they weren't going to like it. But we had absolutely no idea that they would reject it, that they would fight it. Like that was gobsmacking to me that they busted the union, that they did aggressive union busting. It was just I couldn't believe it. But partially what I hoped was that after the dust settled and I knew there'd be a negotiation phase and it'd probably be some pretty stressful days at work at that time, that maybe we could like build a bit of a labor section in a newspaper, the way they used to do it in the old days. Like maybe we could do labor news, labor reporting, give a voice to some labor journalists out there in the world, do stories about worker rights, stories about the history of labor, stories about the different ideologies underpinning the worker rights movement. I would have liked to have been working on those, either in front of the camera or behind the camera. And perhaps one of those ways too could have been Cenk's role as a CEO class trader, someone who says to the other CEOs, "Hey, how come you don't have a union? We have a union at TYT, and look how well we're performing. Look how good our company's doing. Look how happy my workers are because they have a union, they have a voice." And when they came forward, yeah, I admit I wasn't all that sure about it, but of course I agreed to their right to collective organizing, and we moved forward together, and we built a stronger company, and now we are challenging other companies to do the same. Raise your wages, improve the quality of conditions at their workplace, give them a voice where they live and work. He could have been like a guy who does that. Instead, he's just, I hope he does that still. I'm still holding out hope. I'm probably too naive for that. But this is what this could have been.
And the last thing is to put pressure on the other companies.
Could have been like that from the very beginning. Could have avoided all this stress. And I'm sure the union busting law firms that you guys are paying are fucking expensive. Could have avoided all that, man. Could have just done the right thing. Protected your brand in the process. Protected all the hard work you've put in and all the labor you've exploited all those years as a capitalist from everybody who's offered their talent and their time and their effort to the company. And you could have been a force for change. I mean, not to say that Cenk is the only one here, but dude, you're out of touch. You people are out of touch if you don't think that there's a massive amount of wind and energy flowing into leftist movements regarding labor. It's happening right now with the strike wave that's going on. There's big strikes, threatening or happening already all over the country because people are fucking fed up. This country is going to hell for all sorts of reasons, but one of them is that the working conditions are terrible. People aren't being rewarded for their work, and they're producing profits for billionaires and all these corporations, these immortal entities that are vampires that are just feeding on people. Could have been an example of how to do it. The incentives to successfully unionize, to successfully follow through with a good contract. And other small media companies have it. Jacobin Magazine has a union. Talking Points Memo, Vice News, they're bigger than TYT, but they recognize their union in an hour when they came forward. So I would like to see more of this kind of thing. Challenge other companies to be better CEOs. We'll have a hope that he learns and that he grows and that he steers his company better because, man, it will, of course, be crazy if he was still like, yeah, unions, no, can't do unions. So he's got to take this tone. He's got to take a lot of this tone. And calling it a bumpy start, though, dude, that's not being honest with that's not being honest with the viewers. That's not honest at all. So, there's AM driving. Okay. So this is really all over the place. That's the end of that shit that I wanted to get into. So let me get back to the browser here. Of course, it's not working exactly the way I want. Let's have to reconnect it. All right, so will it go? Okay. Those shrimp are not eating that pellet, by the way. I know this is a random thing to say, but I wonder if the pellets have gone bad. I'm just poisoning the tank. All right, so let's rewind. Everybody jump into your TARDIS or your 2012 Prius with leather seats, and let's head back to 2020 and kind of relive the day that shit hit the fan. Okay, pretend you're at a Gallagher concert, but someone pulled a great prank by switching out the watermelons for large balls of shit. Dookie. God's smegma. Okay, let's just go for it. And it's going to splatter everywhere. Pull up your tarp when it's really coming at you. Get hit in the face by the watermelon seeds, and we're going to relive this day on Twitter mainly. That's where everything was going down when the Young Turks finally came forward with this union drive. So the context too is that the company or Cenk had been running for Congress since like mid-November or something like that. And things were fairly intense because of that. No one really understood or could tell where the company's future was headed. It had activated a lot of the Democratic establishment that were printing and pointing out some valid criticisms of Cenk, as well as a lot of really bullshit things. Like, there were certainly some sort of nonsense hit jobs arrows being launched. I actually am kind of embarrassed I was ever a fan of the guy, considering how really misogynistic and sexist a lot of that stuff was in the past. And it makes me, and that's not just trying to make that a low shot at him. I don't recall it being that bad at the time, and maybe that speaks to my misogyny or culturally and conditioned. I've grown up as an American my whole life. I was an 80s kid and born in late 1979. So my whole life was like just as a full-born, bred and bled American kid. So I picked it up for sure, this sexist society. Maybe that's one of the reasons it didn't seem so gross at the time. Not that I mostly watched TYT for its politics and stuff, because the progressive message was rarely, I'm talking back in like the aughts, kind of, those years. I didn't really give much of a shit about the nonsense cultural bullshit, the celebrity stuff. But, they did some stuff that was really sketchy. But set that aside. That's not the point of this. It's just more saying like I hope I've evolved into somebody who would be more repulsed by that than I probably was at the time, and I regret that. And I think that, but I'm trying to change. You know, let's be honest. It's okay to acknowledge that shit was out there, and it maybe it's a reason to investigate some of your own biases and stuff. And I hope I never stop doing that, because I'm sure it's never going to be perfect. And there's also a place for forgiveness in that sense as well, right? Enough of this cancel call. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those. So TYT Union comes out 9:03 a.m. February 12th, 2020. The crew of the Young Turks has organized. They have a statement here. Good for them. Hell yeah. Jeff Waldorf says this is wonderful news. I like Jeff. He does a show. TYT Nation. Sorry, I think he changed it. Jeez, Jeff, I'm so sorry. He's on Twitch. He does a lot of good work. He'll come up a little bit later too, by the way, but no, I'm not trying to. Okay, you'll see. So that was on the 12th of February. From what I understood and from what I've taken to understand is the company did not see this coming. They seem to be caught flat-footed about it. Although it's kind of like, really, you didn't think a bunch of progressives and lefties who work for you might eventually try one of these unions? What? You were shocked, like, oh my God, really? So there wasn't much of a response from TYT, other than it was clear that they didn't recognize it right away, which is what we kind of expected. We figured they might take some time, but every hour that goes by makes it look bad that you're not recognizing it. But all right, so okay, they want to take a week to recognize it. That would have been a little gross, but it would have been like, okay, they took a week and then they said, okay, cool, and now we would have just moved forward off of that. And there wouldn't be any of this union busting stuff if that's what happened. So then we jump ahead to February 21st. Now stuff is starting to get real kinetic on this day. This is the day I jumped into the mix with all this. When we announced our decision to go union with IATSE over a week ago, we had hoped the Young Turks would respect our choice and voluntarily recognize our union. We are dismayed to report that they have refused. Hashtag TYT Live. That's the TYT Union account. So now we've got card check rejected. And as you know, Bernie Sanders is a big supporter of card check. It means, here's a tweet of his, democracy must mean democracy in the workplace as well. When I am president, when 50% of workers in a unit sign a card to join a union, +1, they will have a union. End of discussion. You fucks. I added that last part. So yes, that's what card check is. When 50% of workers sign a card to join, +1, which means a majority, it becomes a union. Full stop. That's what the Young Turks Union did. That was the first election. It should have been immediately and voluntarily recognized by the company, which it wasn't. It was rejected. So here's now TYT's rejected it. IATSE comes back with an answer today. They say the Young Turks refuse voluntary recognition of the TYT Union. This is a disappointing decision from an organization that presents itself as progressive. Join us in telling the Young Turks to respect their so-called principles and respect their workers. Ooh, I got a story about that word respect that is really good, but I'm going to save that one for later. So it's not like news story. It's just I had an emotion. So TYT answers. This is the company's response from the Young Turks, 11:36 a.m. So it's almost noon time, almost time for lunch. TYT says, completely inaccurate. We offered to recognize the union upon completion of an expedited arbitrator-supervised secret ballot election within days. The union did not even respond to our proposal. So they say, you are not being accurate. We would recognize it after another election on our terms in the office next to the boss's office in the conference room, I meant to say. So they have a statement. Last week, TYT received a letter from IATSE demanding recognition for an undefined bargaining unit based on signatures collected from TYT employees. The TYT immediately engaged with IATSE, seeking to determine precisely which job classifications the union sought to represent. TYT also engaged in dialogue with IATSE regarding the best ways to confirm the democratic will of the employees without delay. Specifically, the parties discussed the prospect of an expedited arbitrator-supervised secret ballot election that could occur within days. then underlined here, upon which TYT was prepared to voluntarily recognize IATSE if employees voted in favor of union representation. They already did. They did card check. You rejected that. That's it. Going on here. IATSE expressly invited TYT to make a specific proposal for such a process. That proposal was delivered to IATSE yesterday, and IATSE has not responded. IATSE's statement is a gross distortion of the facts. TYT remains prepared to voluntarily recognize IATSE upon a demonstration of majority support in an expedited arbitrator-supervised election. The fact that IATSE has failed to respond to TYT. Now, here's the critical part. This is the first ball of squash pudding. Why did I come up with that? Instead, opting to issue misleading statements suggests that there are other motives at play. What do they mean? Other motives at play. What could they mean by that? Now, they don't quite say. It's going to become very clear, and this is reported on quite a lot in those videos. All right. So already we're at rejected card check, okay? But right along with that, they're also starting up this last one here. I changed the graphic a little bit because it's easier to switch to this one, but it says publicly spreading conspiracy lies and misinformation. So they're starting to spread this notion that the Young Turks Union was a conspiracy by Cenk's political opponent, Christy Smith. There was a special election to replace Katie Hill, who had been forced to resign or something like that. The seat was vacated, and Cenk decided to run for the seat in like mid-November or something. And in the podcast I did March of whatever 2020, I actually make a case for why I hope Cenk wins the election. I still would make that case. He would have been better than Christy Smith, just straight up, even with all the stuff I've experienced in the emotional journey I've had regarding this guy. He would have been better than her, just be realistic in a harm reduction kind of sense. He would have been better than her. So, but right out the gate, they're starting this stuff, publicly spreading this conspiracy that their workers were either in on a plot to mess up his campaign by forming a union and coming forward during the campaign, which only would work as a plot if you expected the pro-union guy to reject the union, which nobody expected the pro-union guy to reject the union. It's the worst. It's the world's worst thought out plot if that's true, and it's fucking not. And I'm telling you it's not, because I was there at the fucking beginning of it. This is the stuff that pisses me off. So right out the fucking gate, man. And you got to think about this from a worker perspective. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So other motives at play. That I did not like. I'm sure I'll get back to what I was about to say. I answered this coming forward on Twitter saying, I'm a former employee of TYT who was part of the organizing effort, got laid off in early Jan, short for January. Speaking only to the suggestion that other motives are at play, I can confirm that is total bullshit. We began the effort long before Cenk's campaign, in secret, of course. This is about living our principles and standing together to improve material conditions in the workplace. It's about worker rights, which Cenk is a big proponent of. The suggestion that TYT's employees are being manipulated by that's a typo, by IATSE or by Cenk's opponent is frankly insulting. TYT is staffed by brilliant, hardworking, kind, and decent progressives, liberals, and lefties. It was a joy and a privilege to work with so many talented people. They deserve to have their right to organize recognized, not answered with insults and lawyer speak. And I don't know this guy, Austin Plea, whatever. I'm not trying to pick on this guy here, but this is an example of the way that this stuff started to work right away. This spell that they cast, this food fight that they started, created all this commotion and chaos because they know their audience trusts them. They know that they're going to believe what they put out. All for the union, this person says, all for the unionization, and it should be recognized. However, since IATSE is doing canvassing for Cenk Uygur opponent, you can't say it doesn't look fishy. And if TYT sent a response and they didn't respond, but instead issued a statement, that does point to other motives. What other motives? What other fucking motive? Again, I'm not mad at the guy, but this is the confusion that they were trying to sow by saying, let's just imagine here that Cenk wasn't running for Congress. because the premise of this conspiracy is that the only reason the core foundation for the union starting was that Cenk was in a campaign, was that Cenk was running for political office and he had political opponents and he had a powerful Democratic establishment allied against him, which he did. The same way they marshaled forces around Nina Turner, and she was defeated this year in her race in Ohio. In a similar way, I think Nina Turner would have been a far better, person to have in Congress than Cenk. And she's on TYT right now. In fact, I would fucking let me stop swearing. I get into these swearing modes. It's not cool. I would love if Nina Turner would maybe learn about this stuff, learn more that she's working with a union buster, and that maybe I couldn't think of a better person to confront Cenk about this shit. Maybe he should have to explain this. Wouldn't it be amazing for Nina Turner to be the one that demands an explanation for, did you really think that your workers were part of a conspiracy by your opponent? And by the way, I know I'm going to be all over the place here. Let me just finish this thread here. I don't remember if I was answering the guy. There are definitely more details to the story, no doubt, as with all stories, particularly when the internet gets a hold of it. I'm just saying definitively that as one of those who began this organizing effort, it had absolutely nothing to do with Christy Smith. Yeah, it's just such bullshit that's what they did. So right off the bat, though, people are starting to ingest this information, this misinformation, as the narrative. They got this stuff worked really well to create confusion. Later on that day, 12:15 p.m., not much later. I'm not sure exactly. So okay, he's tweeting a email and an IATSE tweet here, but he says this is not true. This is from Cenk. See letter below from TYT. Number 2. Coincidentally, I'm sure IATSE has endorsed my opponent and is canvassing for her right now. See internal email sent to us by a wonderful union member. Okay, so that's what the email is. 3. Another coincidence. IATSE released this on day of our only forum together. They were having a debate/forum that night. That was their one and only kind of candidate forum or something. I didn't watch it. Like I was going to, but I didn't have time to watch and look for shit here. So again, we're not talking about the Young Turks workers. We're not talking about workplace issues. We're being fed this narrative by Cenk that this union only exists because he is in a campaign. It's narcissistic as shit, starting right off the bat. Just immediately made it about himself and about his campaign and his political aspirations. So we have a politician, CEO, talk show host with a big audience, and he is confronted with a union, and his answer to it is to weaponize his audience, to put out misinformation and conspiracy bullshit that the workers at his company are either in on a plot to mess up his election, or are rubes and have been duped into being pawns in a game of the establishment trying to take down Cenk because he's running for election. In a fucking race, he's a carpetbagger. He was never going to win that shit anyway. He was never going to come close to winning that race. It was a bad decision, and I bet you he would agree with that. If there were no election, we would have started this union, because we started this union before he became a politician and started running for Congress. Are they going to suggest that IATSE wouldn't have had interest? IATSE would have had plenty of interest in adding us to their union. And unions have to be careful about who they let in. You can't just anybody, like you have to meet certain conditions and requirements. And we did, as an established company with editing, and some of our editing ended up on television because there's like cable package deals that Young Turks has. And, we're by every stretch professional editors who deserve to be represented as a collective organization within a union. And there's also other groups within it that fall under the umbrella of IATSE. Not everybody would be in the same guild. I would have joined the Motion Pictures Editors Guild, the local 700. The other departments like graphics and technical directors, like studio people, would have been in their own guilds. And I didn't even know about IATSE until our first meeting with the organizers when they came over to my apartment. They explained more how it works. They were really good. They were wonderful guys to work with. Patient, kind. They listened to us. And okay, I'll bring up I mentioned respect earlier. One of the guys, he says during this first meeting, I get chills when I think about it. You know, kind of early in the meeting, we're settling in a little bit. That fucking coffee cake is just eating away at my soul, but people were, you know, enjoying it. I was happy, you know. So a little crappy coffee cake's better than no coffee cake, I suppose. And he just kind of says, he goes, you know, this is, I don't remember exactly the phrasing, but he says, what we're really talking about here, what this is all about is respect. And no one said anything. It was silent. That silence is burned into my head. Because it was like a small little leaf of hope poking out of the dirt. A little sense that we might be able to demand respect where we did not feel any. Because we didn't have a voice at our workplace. So the two theories they threw out, meaning they're folded into the same because it was all insinuation. Either they're part of the plot against my political campaign, or they're rubes and they're being duped into being in a union as part of the opponents and my political opponents. But the third theory that they were desperate to not have brought out, which is the one I'm telling you right now, is that there were genuine grievances at that place that needed to be reckoned with and needed to be answered. And the only way to do that was through collective organizing. Why am I pointing like that? Because I don't want to do this. That's weird to do that right to the camera. The actual truth is that there were issues that needed to be addressed, and that a group of workers got together in a very small act of defiance in the grand history of labor defiance and labor and workers standing up for their rights. And they said, we are not going to take it anymore. And we reached out to a union that specializes in workers not taking it anymore. And yes, there are issues with unions. I would rather that IATSE had not endorsed Christy Smith. I would rather that no union endorses any political candidates. There are definitely problems within all that stuff. There's nuances to these things. And people like to point to the culinary union in Nevada where they were pushing against Bernie because they were saying, oh, we're the union. We got your health care. You want to lose your health care? Then you better not vote for that Bernie. And from what I understand, a majority of the union defied what their union said and voted for Bernie anyway. You really think that IATSE endorsing Christy Smith was really carrying a lot of fucking weight? More people know what IATSE is now. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you probably know what IATSE is, the International Association of Theater and Stage Employees. Because of the big strike action that's about to happen and all the terrible, brutal ways that people who work in this industry are treated. And the union needs to stand strong. I hope they do strike. I mean, I hope they get, the first deal that they have doesn't seem right. So this is just the beginning. This is going on forever. I'm sorry. This is how I do shit, though. All right, 12:36 p.m. Again, we're still on that Friday, February 21st. Christy Smith jumps in. Let's just be fair and show what she says. Again, this all would have been this. I mean, they would have rejected. I think they would have still done union busting had he not been running for Congress. I just think it wouldn't have been as sloppy and stupid as this weird conspiracy. We got a politician ranting and raving. Let's pick Cenk up here from the 21st century and drop him off in the 19th century. He's a railroad baron or a newspaper owner. That's probably what he would want to be, a media guy. Running for Congress, wearing a top hat, dressed up like the Penguin, monocle, 2 monocles. And a union comes forward. Hire the Pinkertons. Get out there and bust their heads. Shoot them. It's all, they're coming after me. It's about me. Some crazed 19th century politician ranting and raving about how his own workers are against him. What are you, fucking crazy? It would, like, Mr. Moneybags, the Monopoly guy, would be in a corner, jerking off, enjoying the whole show. This capitalist politician ranting that his own workers are conspiring with my opponents to get me. No, we wanted raises. We wanted to have a voice in our workplace. We wanted to quit being disrespected all the fucking time. That's what it was. So anyway, this is what Christy Smith says. CIA is home to thousands of hardworking IATSE members. And that's true. IATSE is the entertainment industry union, so there's lots of, I'd imagine a huge chunk live in and around Los Angeles. Plus, there's a lot around the country. Georgia has a big chunk. I'm sure there's a whole bunch in New York. Anyway, as a former union leader, I'm proud to stand with them today and every day. Also, Cenk Uygur, how's the whole progressive thing working out for you? So this is the gift that they handed Christy Smith by refusing the union. We never expected him to refuse the union. I didn't. It never even came up. What kind of horrible managers would decide that this is that the company's best tactic is to become union busters? For God's sakes. So now Cenk responds to her. Oh, look, in a totally uncoordinated way, I'm sure. The candidate that IATSE is currently canvassing for puts out the same false attack against us. And this is on the days that she's participating in the only forum she's ever come to. I wonder if she'll bring it up. So genuine. So he's obviously insinuating something's going on. I don't know why they're so obsessed about this forum thing. The day of the forum. Oh, I don't understand that. That's odd. I guess maybe because that's it's only from a narcissistic posture is there any rational reason why they keep focusing on that? Because it means that, oh, now we're going to have to talk about it. Is she going to attack me on the union busting? She'd be stupid not to. You're in politics. You're running for fucking politics. Cenk pretends to be a political pundit who claims to have a high success rate at his predictions and his takes. He's made a career out of it. Actually, I should say other people's talent and hard work have allowed him to have a career out of it, that he is somewhat paid for their time and their efforts. I should take back this somewhat. I shouldn't be speaking for others. I'm speaking for my $21.63 an hour rate that I was getting. So we're still talking about his political campaign because they're desperate to avoid actually addressing the issues that need to be brought up within the union. And that should all be handled internally. And it has been after all the negotiating now. And I'm proud of my comrades in the union for sticking through it. Because I'm sure there was management side consultants that the TYT pays for. I'm sure they're expensive. They were saying, yeah, well, if we just make this negotiating difficult, maybe they'll give up. Maybe they'll get too frustrated by it. Maybe they'll be disheartened. Because you're always the underdog when you're workers. And they know that. Sarah Jones is I want to say writer for, Intelligencer, New York Magazine, New York, member of the New York Guild. So she's a labor reporter. She writes here, this is answering TYT's tweet earlier, saying, labor reporter jumping in to add to the chorus. This isn't what voluntary recognition means. This is classic union busting. Okay. Thanks, Sarah Jones. And then a good example, I'm just reading this right now, but here's someone tweeting, can you further explain for those of us who are more than a little bit confused by this whole thing? So the confusion was the point of it, though, is my point. Again, not picking on this random Twitter person here. They wanted the audience to not get the accurate story. Which is that, oh man, what's going on at the Young Turks workplace? Maybe there's some issues that need to be addressed. The Humanist Report, I don't have he deleted something here. Apparently, I'm gathering that this is a guy who has a podcast talk show. He's got 300-something thousand subscribers on YouTube. Hadn't really heard. I'd heard of it, never really tuned in. Well, not sure. I know he's on Means TV, which is something that I find interesting, and hopefully you will too. But again, this is actually just an example of how this tactic is working now. People are starting to question the workers. They're starting to take this narrative that this whole thing is a result of Christy Smith and the endorsement that IATSE had made for Christy Smith. The food fight is now in full motion. The balls of squash pancakes, what did I say earlier? Squash milkshakes are flying back and forth. It's a good food fight. So he says, okay, actually just deleted my tweet, learned the union they've partnered with is in bed with Christy Smith, Cenk's opponent. I can't support any organization in cahoots with the Democratic establishment. Fair. I'm not a big fan of people in cahoots with the Democratic establishment, but I am a fan of being in cahoots with the workers at the Young Turks having a right to collectively organize and not have their motives called into question by ignorant talk show hosts like this guy. He didn't have any idea what he was talking about, but he took Cenk's line. He took the management line. I answered this question. I wrote him, the union drive at TYT had nothing to do with Cenk's campaign. I can confirm. The effort to unionize began well before anyone knew of Cenk's campaign. I know this because I helped start it. I bought the shitty coffee cake that got this thing going. Someone on here asks, RKI Sniper says, they want the Young Turks to address it. Was this the reason they let you go? And I wrote back, they didn't give any indication that was the reason. And they did not. I didn't get a sense that that's why they were letting me go. Jeff Waldorf pipes up. My man, TYT. Damn it, let me get Jeff's right show. He was TYT Nation, but I just, around the nation. I knew he had changed it. Okay, because he was TYT Nation for quite a while. Really nice guy. I like Jeff. Okay, this is getting more complicated. So as like, I don't know if cipher is the right word, but as just showing the way that people were starting to not know what to make of this story. Usually it's pretty straightforward. The workers have a right to have a union and the company is resisting it. That's fairly straightforward. But instead now we have this whole political thing being all spun up. Close that. So, yeah. And again, same with the Humanist Report. I don't have any fight with the Humanist Report. I'd probably get along nicely with him. If he's on Means TV, it's somebody I would definitely agree with. I'm very much a staunch leftist, and I'm very persuadable to further leftism every day that goes by that we're still trapped in this fucking capitalist dungeon. But I definitely picked up on his loyalty to the Young Turks, and it also made sense even more when I found this article about how the Young Turks Network signs Humanist Report to growing channel roster. That's in 2017. So he just joined the MCN, which is multi-channel network. And that means like they get to sort of claim TYT as sort of not a sponsor. There's a tweet of this guy explaining it to somebody where it says, I pay TYT to promote my content. So it's sort of like Kyle Klinsky came up through he's a secular talk on YouTube. He's got a very large following. He came up through this kind of MCN. It's not a bad move for somebody, especially in 2017. But this dude, Mike Figueredo, goes on TYT. I don't know how often, but he's still friendly with the company. So when you're making money or when your career ambitions are tied to it, that can be a bias that maybe makes it harder for you to take a worker's perspective over the managers and the management. So that's all. I'm not trying, again, more just in terms of how the various ecosystems here, within this ecosystem, there are various incentives and pressure points being tweaked by this campaign. Now here's Anna jumps in. Jacobin employee. She hosts a show on Jacobin, a very staunchly socialist magazine of which I am a subscriber and I'm proud to be. And I love getting the magazines. I'm looking forward to my old age convalescence so I can finally have time to read them. No, I should be reading them. I do read some of them, but no, Jacobin's great. I've as a longtime fan of Michael Brooks, not that he's a Jacobin guy, but he used to have Bhaskar Sankara on, the founder of Jacobin. I've read Bhaskar's book, The Socialist Manifesto. Could have used more diarrhea jokes, but other than that, I'd say no complaints. So anyway, here's Anna's tweet. This is 12:54 p.m., Friday, February 21st. She quote tweets here Cenk's previous one. She says, as an employee of TYT who is capital, all caps, not part of management and not involved in the business side, parentheses, I'm the EP, executive producer, of the main show, meaning I have editorial say. End parentheses. I feel extremely uncomfortable with IATSE's endorsement of Cenk's congressional opponent, who does not share our progressive values. She's uncomfortable. She doesn't like this union. this union does not share, or does the opponent? The opponent does not share their progressive values, and the union has endorsed her. Therefore, the workers at the company, the people whose talent and hard work and time are why she enjoys a high salary and a life of, I'm not going to say luxury. I would imagine Anna probably feels somewhat frustrated by, people assess where they are in the status hierarchy based on who they perceive their peer groups to be. So like, but compared to regular workers, she's doing really well. And she is not management. I can confirm that. Not that that's up for debate, but she's certainly not just like a regular employee. She might take issue with that, but it's not, she's a critical part of the company's brand and the company's history. And for going back a very long time, she's put a lot of effort. And I've had many conversations with Anna. I like Anna. It's one reason this is so heartbreaking was to see her throwing in on management's team here. She did not take the workers' side. She did not take them at all. Let's see the next tweet. Remember, she's uncomfortable that IATSE wants to have a union at the Young Turks. How dare they? She follows up. While I'm personally supportive of unions, I'm surprised this tweet hasn't been deleted, to be honest. This feels like it's done in bad faith. The fact that this all blew up on the day of Cenk's debate is also extremely suspicious. Just launching food across the room, just fucking throwing squash remoulades. I'm sticking with the squash joke. I don't know why. I have to. So it's suspicious. She puts out the word suspicious. What are they up to? What's this fucking union doing here? Who do they think they are? Couldn't possibly be that the workers at TYT had every right to collectively organize to have a slight voice in their workplace to make their lives slightly less miserable. Couldn't possibly be that. I wonder if she still thinks it's suspicious. Maybe Jacobin ought to do a show about that. About the suspicious nature of the Young Turks union workers. I'll go on. This camera works. I got a microphone. Not that I speak for the union at all, but I was very much part of this shit. Nobody reached out to me to ask me if that was true. I would have given them the honest answer. And I did. I'm sure they saw me tweeting. But there was a narrative here that was being catapulted, being signal boosted. Anna and Cenk have huge followings. Here she is. Now, this is a year or more than a year prior, so it was less than, but 430,000 followers. Let me find a Cenk tweet here. Young Turks account, 440,000 followers. Here's Cenk, 525,000 followers. So close to 1.5 million followers between them. Probably a lot of the same overlap too. That's a lot of signal boosting. And that's way more than any reach I ever have or could hope to have. So let me give a little grace to this though, to Anna here. Because I would really hope that if she sees this or if this gets to her or something, and who the hell would sit through this whole goddamn video? It's ridiculous. I'm going to make a shorter version. I really should just do like a 5-minute version. But I hope that she can become an ally and a supporter of the Young Turks Union. You'd think a progressive organization that just had a bumpy start and is just all about the workers and all about the worker rights, that just had a little bit of miscommunication at the beginning. You'd think that they would, the primary hosts, especially the one who also hosts a show on the socialist magazine Jacobin, would have expressed interest in this story or had done some She's a journalism professor. She teaches journalism, or used to. I don't know, maybe she doesn't anymore. I don't know. But you'd think that like you could reach out to someone who was there, who had the ability to talk about it. I'm talking about myself. Or you could talk to people in the company. Or I don't know if that would have been okay considering the negotiations going on or something like that. So I can understand why you would stay away from it. But there's no story here where the higher ups, the most prominent faces of the company, supported this effort. They fought it. They spread this misinformation. They spread this lie. They spread this conspiracy. And the word conspiracy is used in those articles that I referenced earlier. It's absolutely what it was. In defense of the boss's political ambitions. weaponizing your own audience against your own workers. Am I the only one? Maybe this is one of the things that's been driving me crazy, because I haven't seen anybody I know some people are dialed into this story in terms of like recognizing that the Young Turks should have to explain it or answer for it, or be honest with their audience about what the hell went on. But these workers are the people who your career is built on. Same with Haas. I know he's brought it up. I know he's mentioned his uncle's union busting. But like, I actually, some reporter person said, I'm going on to the Haas's stream. I don't have the tweets right now, and I said, like, yeah, any comment about the ratification, and does he think that the Young Turks should have to disclose how much member money they've spent on union busting? I think it's a pretty reasonable question. And but like 3 or 4 Haas defenders jumped in saying, he already talked about it. He was like, I'm not saying has he talked about it. I'm saying specifically, can these questions be asked? And it's okay if the reporter didn't ask them. I know it's not the guy doesn't have to. I just threw that out there in case the reporter guy who was about to go, he's like a labor guy. People are real touchy about that. And I made the point, I tried to at least, to these people that, like, no, Haas's career is built on the labor that this union performed. I edited some of his videos. The person who did most of the editing for his videos is brilliant and worked so hard on his videos. So, and I'm not saying Hush has to do anything. He has made himself millions and millions and millions of dollars doing socialist videos. And I actually think that's great. I remember when he first started at TYT and was doing bro tips, and, the nepotism forces were very much like keeping him going, because there's no way they would have put up with it if it wasn't the boss's nephew. And when he kind of started to do Twitch, not that I was following it all that closely, but he became someone of more prominence. And I was like, oh, well, at least he's got lefty politics. At least he's got good lefty politics, and he's reaching an audience that might not otherwise be exposed to that stuff. I support that. And I've had many conversations with Haas. I like Haas. He's a good guy. I'm not sure why I'm bringing that up. He did not, just to be clear, like, he did not do any of this shit that Anna and Cenk and the main company account did. He did not accelerate this conspiracy at all. He did not do that at all. That's the point I'm making. It's like, he benefited from the labor that that the people in this union performed. That the people who have these higher profiles, these more public people, they are reaching for their dreams and achieving them and buying $1 million mansions, 2 point something. Honestly, I don't give a shit that socialists make money. I think it's good. The whole fucking point for me is that there should be material wealth and abundance for everybody, which might mean that people only get to have a few $1 million. We get rid of the millionaires, and that we'd have a shit ton more 200,000 heirs, and we'd have the distribution of wealth and distribution of profit workers not only need to control the means of production, but we need to control the means of stress, so we can work less, minimize work, maximize leisure, and protect the world, protect the earth. And, okay, that's the overall broad strokes of the project. And I think it's wonderful that Haas is a fighter for that. And it would be wonderful for him to, prove it, which he does, but it's his uncle who got his career started from. So, there's an incentive there, but I know he's talked about it, and I'm glad he has, and I hope he continues to. Not just because, and people are like, oh, he's not, people think he's involved with this. Like, no, I don't think he's involved with the union busting, but I know for a fact that his career is built on a foundation of labor performed by the people in that union. So yeah, maybe saying, hey, good job on the contract ratification would make sense. And maybe he has. The guy does like 12 hours a day. I don't watch it. And I'm not his target demo anyway. Here's our old friend Jeff again. Jeff, I love you, buddy. This is not about picking on you. I'm just using you as an example here because you were vocal on that day. He says the whole situation is suspicious. So he's repeating, this is another signal boost of the suspicions that Anna spread. And he's just not sure about anything anymore. He supports unions, but not all of them have the best motives. I hate everything right now. I mean, he didn't go with my line, meaning like had he trusted my take on it, because I was giving the workers' perspective, he would have had the honest answer. But trusting Cenk, trusting Anna is rational. As an outsider, you don't have the inside track, and that's okay. Why would you? How could you? And same with the humanist guy. I get it. Like, you know, but that was the whole point of this conspiracy. Maybe it wasn't the overt intention, but it was certainly the outcome was to confuse people. And this confusion created like a Star Trekian force field of opaqueness that made it so that no one really knew what to report. Also, COVID was ramping up. You know, there's a lot bigger problems in the world than this stuff right now. This is probably ridiculously boring for a lot of people. I don't know why you'd be listening if you find it that way. But there's a lot of people who do find this kind of insider bullshit about this like lefty media ecosystems to be interesting. And that's why I put on such a nice shirt. You like it? Mossimo. Yeah, that's right. Thrift store, $7. When I was a kid, thrift store shirts were $3. But it is. It's a little big for me, but I like it. I'm going to wear it like I hope to get married in this shirt. I want my dad to walk me down the aisle in matching shirts. And yeah, just got to find the right, I don't know, what the hell am I saying? So anyway, yeah, it's fine. And just to give Jeff a shot at here's it. Somebody says, I support unions, but then they're like quoting him basically. That sounds like arguments that bosses at non-union shops make. Everything before but should be disregarded and everything after is seen as their true views. That's a decent point. But Jeff says, I worked in union shops for years, buddy. Don't ever question my support for the people. Did you see what the bosses of the culinary union pulled on Bernie? That's what I'm talking about. So, you know, it's not an unreasonable suspicion to have like, oh, a big union might be pulling some tricks on a candidate. But this wasn't IATSE telling the workers at TYT to not vote for Cenk. We're talking about less than 20 people. The unions in Nevada are tens of thousands because it's the culinary workers union. It's huge. There's a lot of corrupt shit in Nevada, by the way. Vegas. Anyway, these guys have a back and forth. It's not trying to make this about Jeff. The important thing here, though, is that Anna and working for Jacobin, and I know that she has her politics, thanks in large part, similarly to a force that moved me left, is Michael Brooks, who she was very close to. And I knew Michael. I met Michael in Jimmy Dore's garage, gave him a ride to his sister's house, and he's somebody I was devastated when he died, and but he was someone who whose voice I came to greatly respect and look forward to, and he's funny as hell too. I mean, but anyway, Michael's an immense loss, and I think I share that with Anna, is that Michael opened my eyes a lot, and I would love for her to become a stronger ally for the Young Turks, for the workers that her career is built on. So that night now we're still on Friday the 21st, and this is the big forum that they're all concerned about. I don't have things bookmarked for this. I just scrubbed it a little bit. We're going to just listen to the opening. I haven't seen this part. I don't know. Let's just go.
David Rodnick.
Get out there, David.
And Cenk Uygur.
We're listening to that crowd. Yeah. That's the audience. That's the people who trust him, who think that the union at his company, the workers banding together to try to improve their lot in life, are against him. I'm not sure that's precisely what they're cheering, but these are people who, if you show up to this and you cheer for him, you're probably going to accept his line over the workers for sure.
Seems like, I guess we've got some Young Turk fans in the house tonight. Next.
I used to be. I'm just hoping. Opening statement by Cenk. I haven't watched this. I don't have, who knows? I doubt the union stuff will come up. This might just be boring shit. Who knows? This is from that forum that night.
Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur, and there are huge differences between the candidates here, and I'm really glad that Christy finally showed up so we could have that discussion. So, my opponent says that she'd like to work with Republicans at all levels. Donald Trump is at one of those levels. I would love to ask her, what is she going to work with Donald Trump on? I don't want to work with Donald Trump. I want to defeat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I started a show called The Young Turks. We are proudly home of progressives, not home of moderates, not home of people who'd like to work with the Republicans. I founded Wolfpack. That is to get money out of politics. I co-founded Justice Democrats that proudly got the 4 strongest women into Congress: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar. And when I was co-founder of Justice Democrats, we invented something called the No Corporate PAC Pledge, which I am glad that my opponent took a couple of weeks ago. So now, look, there's policy differences. I am for Medicare for all. That is universal health care. It's the only thing that gets you universal health care. No co-pays, no premiums, no deductibles. Everything else says that you do not have health care as a right. I'm for the Green New Deal to create high-paying solar and wind energy jobs in this district. My opponent, on the other hand, her average last year was $2,700 from AT&T, Facebook, United Health. That is the largest insurance company in the world. Are you going to give that back? And are you for Medicare? Are you against Medicare for all because you mean it, or are you against Medicare for all because United Health gave you money? She says she's not taking money now. She says she's not taking money now, but she's taking money from Goldman Sachs, BP, Wells Fargo, Sempra, and Koch brothers.
Thank you.
Okay, so he didn't mention the union busting. Usually, you would if you did. No, it's the home of progressives. I guess maybe there is room for anti-union progressives. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a misunderstanding on my side here. I don't know. I'm just going to scrub to one spot. I don't know.
When the government was shut down and he had shut it down, his poll numbers were going down, and he had said on the record that he wanted to protect dreamers.
Regular
that was
speed
the
again.
perfect time to extract that compromise from him. But Democratic leadership didn't do it.
Okay. All right, whatever. That's fine. So the forum was going on, and while it's all happening, Anna is tweeting at Christy Smith, and that's fine. She's kind of put her boss's political opponent on blast. Christy Smith is a corporate tool. It would have been worse for her to be in Congress than Cenk. I was hoping for Cenk's win here, even with all this negative feelings here. I was hoping for Cenk to win. Because I think the themes that we're getting at are bigger than me and bigger than the Young Turks and bigger than Anna and all these people. And I'm not going to read every single one of these. There's a tweet thread here where she keeps mentioning IATSE. Now, IATSE is facing a serious union or serious strike situation right now because its employees and many of its workers are severely abused by their bosses. And this is Anna taking a management side position against a workers organizing. And she is clearly bringing up all these IATSE endorsements because of the union presence. That's why I'm bringing it up, because it's relevant to this narrative. She's putting her substantial social media clout into this further pumping up the balloon of the bullshit that the workers at her company were part of a plot against her politician CEO pal's political ambitions. You can see here that she's kind of going after IATSE. You proud of endorsing her IATSE, she says. So in her defense, this is what I was trying to get at earlier, and I kind of flubbed through it. This whole time was really hard and really stressful. I was stressed out by it. All the other workers were stressed out by it. You could just kind of feel the uncertainty moving. And I know for a fact, as I've heard her say so, and it was, I don't question any of the genuineness of it, that it was really hard time for Anna because she had been publicly defending the bullshit attacks that were being launched at Cenk. She and he have a long history together. That's not an irrelevant context. They work very closely together, and things were incredibly stressful, I guess. And stress makes people perhaps not see things fully clearly, or have perfect perception. I guess I'm trying to pick the words carefully. So I think that in a lot of ways, she probably didn't have any sense that this behavior, that attacking the union, the parent union, the umbrella organization of the union guilds that her workers were trying to join, that the company had already rejected via card check. I don't think she had a sense that she was participating in union busting. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt on that. I think she deserves that, because I really think that there should be, and I'm inviting her not to, I doubt she's going to want to talk to me. I'm sure this is going to piss people off if they see this, but I'm really inviting her and asking to apologize. No. I mean, that's up to you. You can decide if you think you need to apologize for throwing your own workers under the bus. But acknowledge something here. Acknowledge this in some way. Do some journalism. Do better. Bring this some sunlight. You go to work and you sit next to a union buster, a guy who attacked the very people you helped him attack by weaponizing your substantial audiences. I know I keep repeating myself, but you guys, from a worker's perspective, just please, now that the contract has been ratified, do you still think it was a conspiracy? Do you still think it was suspicious? Do you still believe that? Have you corrected it? Have you actually ever tweeted directly or made a statement, made a video, or hell, maybe even confront Cenk about the union busting? Or is this not enough union busting for you to make a stand on your principles? I mean, put yourself in the worker's shoes. You are a worker, right? You're not management. I mean, I don't know. I'm talking directly to Anna. I'm sure she's not. She has much bigger things to worry about than this bullshit. Believe me. My bullshit, I mean. But this was heartbreaking. And again, let me just be very clear. She is not at all the villain in this story. If there's any villain in these stories, it's always the same. It always usually goes to the top, right? Cenk likes to say the fish rots from the head down. He's the head of TYT. And do it for the movement. Maybe we can educate your audience about what happened here. And perhaps, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, it's probably going to go on for hours. No, I'm not going to. Yeah. But perhaps the members of TYT deserve to know how much money they spent on union busting. Their money funded it, right? TYT is member funded. There's venture capital funds too. But you guys get money every month, lots of it, from members. When we get into the law firm section here, you'll see that the two law firms TYT has hired are management side, anti-union, anti-worker law firms. If I were a paying member of TYT, which I was for many years, I would want to know if I funded union busting. That seems relevant. And that would make me pretty upset, to be honest. And I would want some clarity on that. And if it happened, which it did, I would expect the hosts to defend their integrity and to defend their reputations by being honest about it and by clarifying and maybe even making amends somehow. I don't know what that even would entail. I don't know. Sure. The only amends I can think of are like work harder to promote marginalized voices, work harder to promote labor stories, work harder to promote labor journalism, work harder to advance socialist causes and labor causes. I guess that's what I would suggest. What do you mean? What do you mean by amends? Like, okay, well, that, I guess. You know, it was heartbreaking. It hurt to be a worker. You're already disrespected so much that you had to start a union. And you should start unions whether you feel disrespected or not. Everybody should have a voice in their life. We spend 5/7 of our fucking lives, if we're lucky to have a job, if we're lucky to have one that we only have to work 5 days a week. These bosses get 5/7 of your life. And we're taught to just shut up and take it and to be grateful you're not homeless or grateful you don't have to have one of those essential worker jobs. Then you're tired on Saturday, so the boss kind of gets that day too. And then you have the Sunday scaries. Ruins church for me every Sunday. I got to go to work tomorrow, and it's dread, man. It sucks. I'm working 4 days out of 4 days on, 3 days off. And dude, that is what it should be. I wish it was a lot less than that, to be honest. But like 3 days is a world of difference for work. But I'm doing physical menial labor, and I need those 3 days. So your boss gets 7/7 of your life. So anyway, I'm not trying to, people might, I'm not trying to pick on Anna, but this deserves to be called out. She helped the Young Turks bust this union. Attempted to bust the union. I hate it when people say, well, they have a union now. That means they didn't do union. No, they did. Whether you tried or not, whether it succeeded or not, doesn't mean they didn't aggressively try. So then on the, let's see. Okay. I'm not going to read all these. This is on, I just want to get the date here. It's at the top, 9:05 a.m. on February 24th. So this would be Monday after that forum. They keep bringing up IATSE. So they keep having this dispute with IATSE. Some internal messages had been released. But again, it's all about making it no discussion about the workers at TYT, no discussion about their right to have an organizing effort, all about this whole, we don't know what's in IATSE. We don't know who here's number 7 out of 10. Given the unusual circumstances here, IATSE not only is actively campaigning against the founder of the company in his political race, but also has clearly acted in bad faith. 8 out of 10. It would be absurd to accept that they truly represent the wishes of our employees without verification. That's their case for why they rejected card check, because they want to verify. They're just looking out for the workers here. They're just going to challenge the bargaining unit. They're just going to try to put scabs into the bargaining unit. They're just going to try to have it in a management-friendly location outside the boss's office. They're going to put pressure on people. They're going to have captive audience meetings. We just need time to do a little union busting, and then we can verify if our workers really want to have a union. I just unplugged my thing out of my ear. If our employees confirm that they really do want this union to represent them, they did. They did card check, you fucks. They came forward with a confirmation. They had an election. That changes the equation completely. We believe our employees are the ones who should decide, and we continue to call for an immediate secret ballot. 10 out of 10. IATSE doesn't agree. If IATSE doesn't agree, it's obvious they never had the support of our employees, and this is all a ploy to intimidate us and the people who work at TYT. We were just such a happy family. We were just a bunch of happy people minding their own gosh darn business. Then the boss decided to become a politician, and god darn it, the Democratic establishment then rubed the dumb workers here into forming a union, and they're just trying to intimidate us. This is what the main account is putting out. Squash pie flying everywhere. Squash pizzas are launching left and right. Squash tots. I almost said tater tots, but I shortened it for your benefit. Squash. Squash. Why not? Little salt, little pepper, little squash. Flying everywhere. It's sticking to the walls. It's been happening so long it's starting to dry against the walls. The mosquito. I missed. I didn't get the mosquito. So the food fight, the distraction, the conspiracy is being woven. The spell is being casted. Gandalf atop the tower fighting Sauron from afar, launching thunderstorms at each other, disturbing the local crops, upsetting woodland animals, minding their own business. Powerful forces here. All, but from a worker's perspective, this is rotten. This is horrible way to be treated. How do you think it felt? I was fired in January, right? I went to work at 10:30. I got kicked out by noon, and I didn't say bye to anybody except my immediate manager because I sat next to her. She was stunned too. She had no idea. The manager didn't have any idea that she was losing a worker that day. She was like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, that's why I'm packing up my desk. See you later." But from a worker's perspective, I lost my train of thought. Fuck. All right. Imagine what it must have been like. This was before the lockdown, so they still were going into the office. To walk into that place, to get up and get dressed and get ready and drive to work, knowing that the two most prominent faces of the company and the main company account and their executive team and their lawyers, their fancy union busting lawyers, are all meeting. That's conspiring. I don't know if it says conspiracy. There's a nuance to those words, how they parse those two words out. But they're conspiring to smear your intentions. The workers, the underpaid, disrespected workers, are having their intentions questioned. by the most powerful people in the company. And they got to go in there and they got to edit those videos of Cenk and Anna doing the news. And by the way, there was mostly silence from all the other hosts. I know some spoke up, but we saw a lot of silence into that. I was paying pretty close attention. The rest of y'all could have fucking spoken up. John Idarola, Brett Ehrlich. You guys could have made more of a stink about this stuff. But I get how power works. You're going to go to the company line. No one reached out to me to ask what was going on. And this cost me friendships. One really long friendship that went kaput. Many other friendships I had made through the company, professional contacts in all sorts of ways, all in service of this fucking union busting. It's just so interesting to me. It's devastating. And my year of 2020 was filled with a lot of my own personal grief or pain. I have some mental illness issues as far as stress goes, or depression and stuff like that, anxiety problems. And 2020 was horrible. I think we can kind of understand why my hair is falling out. And friendships are being lost, and career contacts were being lost. But I had already been laid off. But these poor people who work in this union, and the people who are just trying to exercise their right to collective organizing, which is also something that Cenk has been screaming about on camera for decades. Workers are always getting screwed. CEOs taking advantage of their companies. People, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. On and on and on. As I said in that article in the New Republic, he's the one who planted the seed for forming a union. By making pro-union content for your career? So they had to go to work and move the mouse around and edit shit and make stuff and do graphics for the people on camera whose dreams are coming true. That is to say, they're paid a lot more and they enjoy a much higher status. And they still got to work for them. And help them. Not that they were doing a ton of content about the union, which I get. I don't necessarily think that they should have. It would have been nice if they did. There would have been more of an honesty on display had they done that. But it just kills me that my friends had to go through that. They had to go work at this place for their oppressors, and not only. And when they said, "Hey, we need help." That's what a union is. That's what a union organizing is. That's what coming out as a union is. It's saying, hey, we've had enough. We're tired of it, and we've had enough, and we either you're going to help us or you're not getting our value anymore. Essentially, that's what it is. And they were answered with, you're conspiring with my opponent in my political campaign. Get back to work. How dare you? How dare you step out of line? How dare you? Make me look good on camera. Make me good graphics. Make sure I look and sound great. Oh, and by the way, you don't get a bonus. You don't get your raise or your bonus until this is sorted out. That happened. Unfucking believable. So there's more evidence of just kind of how this stuff gets spun up. This guy here, this is the guy who does Progressive Voice on YouTube. He's like a young dude. I hope he matures. Sahil Habibi. He's got a little following. I know Anna's like a fan of his.
I love him and I love his show. It's Progressive Voice.
He does. They kind of describe him as the TMZ of progressive politics.
Who's the TMZ of political punditry?
He's one of those guys that does like, oh, Jimmy Dore said this, Sam Cedar said that, Cenk Uygur said this, like that kind of stuff.
All he does is he talks about the catfighting among progressive hosts.
Every, zoo exhibit. I like my metaphors, but like, zoos have the monkey house and the bug house and the lizard house, and like every single, almost like different magazine sections of a bookstore, like different section or whatever of a bookstore. Like they all have this version of a role. There's usually, and he's fits into it. He's got a kind of a young, likable guy thing going on. But here he is saying poor Cenk got snaked by his employees and progressives. Taking the management line.
Those 15 employees, man, y'all suck, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You guys are terrible, man.
I mean,
I love him and I love his show.
and of course, this is good though too. That I'm glad someone said it. Sahil, I'm not sure if you realize this, but I think folks are getting tired of this shtick. Atomic Elbow pipes up. I've actually interacted with this person once or a few times on Twitter. Right there with you. I want to like the kid, but I'm getting sick of this shtick too. So, what shtick? He says. Okay, they're having their own. They're having their thing. I hope they all had a nice kiss and made up eventually. But this dude has he has a platform. I think he's got like 70,000 subscribers or something. And again, I'm more than happy and I'd invite the guy to change his mind or to whatever. He doesn't have to do any content about it if he doesn't want to. But this is an example of how this conspiracy tactic worked. How this lie, this bullshit, vicious throwing their own workers under the bus thing worked. I mean, Cenk wanted to be a different kind of politician, and politicians are sneaky bastards, and they're sales people. They're, you have to be a generally, it's kind of amazing how some of this total nimrods that make it into politics are, but they tend to be sort of slimy. They tend to have, it's a job, especially in the United States of corruption that we are, that selects for certain personality traits, sociopathy and willingness to step on people and ability to lie, ability to spin, ability to bullshit. Cenk actually probably had ambitions to become a politician. And I think in some rare cases, I'd say like Bernie, AOC, have everything they've done and will do be perfect and perfectly in line with getting the exact right outcomes. No. And there can't not be some distorting influences of being inside the bubble. But they are rare, kind of rare exceptions. Ilhan Omar is one of my favorites. Cori Bush is fantastic. But even for them, as a career in politics goes on and on, there's going to be forces and influences and, incentives that we don't understand and that we probably won't agree with and whatnot. That's just kind of a blanket statement about all of them. But Cenk started out as a politician, and one of his first acts before he got elected, and he never got elected, but before the election, he threw his own workers under the bus, man. He weaponized his own audience in order to defeat a union that ultimately wasn't defeated. And now, almost 2 years later, year and a half, I guess. It'll be 2 years in February, I guess. So a little over a year and a half. He's making a video saying how great it is that they have a union. And he's challenging, well, I wouldn't say he's challenging, but, he kind of seemed to say that Amazon needs to pay their workers more in support of the IATSE union. Even though he started out suggesting that they were a part of some evil conspiracy, along with his workers, to screw him over. Fucking narcissistic shit, man. I think I have a touch of narcissism. Otherwise, I wouldn't have become a stand-up comedian and trying to do this shit, which I do very poorly. I'm pretty good at the funny part. I'm really bad at the career and the getting paid to be funny part of it all. So how did his Cenk's race go? Do you think, we know he didn't win. Here's the results. Ballotpedia. He got 9,000 votes. He got 5.9% of the vote. Christy Smith got 31.7%. And in the general election, she lost. Wow, that was holy shit. She lost by, oh God, I'm so tired. I can't do it. She lost by 33 votes. Whoa, to a Republican. That's the worst outcome of all. It's getting a Republican in. She'd have been better than Mike Garcia, I assume. I don't honestly know. She sounds like she was a horrible corporate Democrat. However, the Republican ethos is just pretty much pure evil. They fall in line more than anybody. So are we supposed to presume that had the union not come forward, Cenk would have won this election somehow? That he cost that many percentage for a very poorly thought out campaign to be a carpetbagger politician with a huge backlog of easily pointable things that are kind of sketchy? There was a lot of differences of opinion at the Young Turks about whether he would win or whether he should have ran. I was actually I was rooting for him. I still think I don't think he'll ever run again. I imagine that's kind of humiliating. Yeah, I know it'd be crazy if he ever ran again, it seems. But, you know, as far as the kind of people that end up in Congress, I think he still would be a decent congressperson as far as like the kind of standards we expect out of Congress people. So his paltry showing in this race, to me, just more indicates that this was just ill-conceived from the beginning. The union, even had he embraced the union and said, hey, because that's what I thought they would do. I thought they would go, oh, no, union, that fucking Hank, goddamn Hank. Because I would speak up at meetings occasionally and like, you know. But I thought they would go, well, we have to recognize it to protect our brand. And then what's the best way forward here that we can do? Okay, well, let's just make it work and let's let's fundraise off of it. They could have said to the audience, hey, listen, we got a union. And you know what? Honesty moment. Unions are, in order to give our workers the raises that they're demanding, we need to do a fundraising campaign. I bet the Young Turks audience would have stepped up for that. That's another thing that I've kind of alluded to, but I want to make more clear here. I got to know people in the TYT audience over the years. Not a whole ton, but I got to interact with some when I would go on air a little bit. Like people would leave comments and I would write some comments, and I got to meet a bunch of, you know, TYT audience over the, I remember doing a Troubadour show. I produced that because I had some live stage experience. So they made me the producer of that, meeting and chatting with TYT audience members and stuff. And it's people who aren't moneyed up. I mean, sure, they have some supporters who have money, but it's like people who are looking for a voice in the wilderness of this horrible media system in this country that clearly is bought off by the corporations or owned and run by the corporations, for the wealthy. And I'm sure a lot have limited means. I'm sure a lot struggle to get by. And that's why I'm kind of doing this too, because it's like they deserve clarity from Cenk and Anna and the company on this stuff. And I'm maybe people who come across this or listen to this get some clarity from me. Apologies for all the rambling and the asides and stuff. No offense to anybody who's a squash farmer. In fact, if you listen to me, your squash prices will go up. More squash fights we have, the better off everybody. All the squash farmers will be. Oh my God. But I'm mad on behalf of the audience in a sense. Because a lot of this stuff, and you can look at all the other ways they did the union busting. It's written about in those articles. You can read Cenk's emails at the author of the Politico article. If you find his Twitter, he's got that stuff online. This is enough to make the audience mad, and or at least to ask for clarification. And so let me get to the final thing. This has gone very long, and thank you for hanging in there with me. Here's the this is the dude with the tweets, with the Cenk's letters and shit. Alex Tomp. Great last name, by the way there, Alex. So one thing that I noticed and that frustrated me is the silence from like more prominent lefty outlets. I get it though. Like I understand that people might not have picked up on the story. I like the Majority Report. I think Sam Cedar does a good job. I still watch them and I enjoy Sam and Emma and Matt Leck and the whole crew there. They're all good. I like them all. Anyway, I just recall one caller once asking about it, and he said something like, "Oh yeah, I just don't know much about that. There was some confusion about it or something." Like he made a comment like he just didn't know, and other outlets may have seen some of the tweets or I don't know. I just know that you can't ignore the possibility that TYT having a more prominent station, a bigger profile within this world, might have an influence on the way people are willing to address this or not. Doing what I'm doing right now is really dumb if I wanted to get in TYT's good graces. If I needed Cenk's approval for some work or for a show, or if it's bad for getting work anywhere. Calling out a former employer, it's a red flag to any HR department. honesty, caring, believing in the principle of truth and honesty, believing this fucking bullshit right here, boldly pursue truth. Zoom in on it. Dramatic. Dramatic. It's very, where is it? Oh God, there it is. Hold down control mouse wheel. Makes reading easier. I'm getting older and eventually I'm going to have to, my eyes are going to go. They're already turning into zombie eyes, which is horrible. They used to be pretty. Now they're just turning gray. So yeah, I mean, this is risky and scary, and maybe they'll sue me. Maybe they'll send lawyer letters after me. I don't know. So it doesn't feel like that doing this kind of thing is without risk. It seems reckless, but I'm a nobody. My comedy career hasn't really gone well. I've had a lot of shit jobs in terms of just like getting by, barely getting by and stuff. And I've had ambitions to do more podcasting, and I get various fits of inspiration that last a few months where I try, but then the burnout thing just kind of catches up to me. And when I was working at TYT, I felt burnout the entire time. I have a personal story about my time at TYT that is, I eventually will be telling, but it's not ready yet. So, but yeah, there was a lot of emotional heavy lifting required to work there, which is among the reasons why this union got started. And I didn't have to do a lot of persuading, if any. None. When I was starting to elbow nudge this thing a little bit, just pushing pebbles, just a little pebble moving, see if others had, because I knew we already had solidarity in a way. You do that with people who you have a similar skill with, who you work with. And you kind of know. You don't really have to have a deep conversation. You end up having deep conversations, but you don't have to go into a ton of detail if you already kind of get each other and you get the challenges. You know, you've had eye rolls for months. Oh, this shit again. This shit again. That kind of thing. The lawyers at TYT are like taking notes. Oh, he did eye rolls. Let's tell that to the judge. By the way, if any lawyers at TYT are listening to this, send those invoices in. Get paid. Get paid, you scum sucking losers. This is what you decided to do with your life? Wow, so proud. I hope you enjoy those dishwashers that don't need emptying. Hope you enjoy your fancy squash dishes that don't. I meant to say washing machines that are dryers and washers. I've always wanted one of those. Maybe I should become a union busting lawyer, and then I can take the money from a company like TYT that gets money from people who are struggling, and I can take a whole bunch of their money and buy myself as many washer dryer combos as I want. I don't know. Maybe they're not. I doubt it. I don't know. Who knows? Hank's talking again. I guarantee they're listening. That'll make sense eventually. But this silence was sort of deafening for the workers at TYT because I had the only really ability to say anything, and I was out of it anyway. I tried to speak up on Twitter. I did my stupid podcast, and there was I could have done a lot more content, but there was nobody really who was speaking up for the workers. It's kind of what I'm doing now. I don't expect this to make a lot of difference, or if anybody will ever really notice. But this narrative has to be out there. Although one place, Humanist Report, is involved with them. Means TV did a segment, and I'd like to play it. It's pretty good. This will get us into our last bit here, and then we will finish. So
we got the best bumpers in the business there. We got a carpet wall and the best bumpers in the business. What more could you possibly want? So 2 charges were filed with the National Labor Relations Board this week related to the Young Turks unionizing effort. It's been a bad month for Cenk Uygur. He got smoked in his congressional race, 4th place, got 5% of the vote, and then he got busted busting a union at his media company. The charges were brought by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, IATSE, which is working to organize the production and editing crews at the Young Turks. The network is charged with unlawful terminations and punishing concerted activity. Twitter user @Brandon Magner flagged who the Young Turks have hired to represent them. Turns out it's a notorious union buster. Some guy named Gregory Hessinger at a law firm, Mitchell, Silderberg, and Knupp. Hessinger boasts on his profile on the company website that he's successfully defended a network-owned major market television station against high-profile wrongful discharge. Cool dude. He successfully defended a major advertiser against unfair labor practice charges, successfully defended a public transportation company against unfair labor practice charges, represented major regional sports network, and successfully defeating 2 separate union organizing drives. Okay, this guy sucks. This guy sucks. Cenk, just recognize the union, dummy.
Ooh, that can't be good. That, oh boy. Oh boy. So they've got a union busting attorney on the NLRB. And I had bookmarked that NLRB guy, or the Twitter user they mentioned. But I said, you know what? I said I was pulling on my chin because I had squash, spaghetti squash stuck to my chin. I was pulling out of my beard. Eating it. It's very nutritious. I said, maybe I can search the NLRB. Okay, let's do it. The Young Turks. Enter National Labor Relations, nlrb.gov/search/case. Do it yourself. Go ahead. Do it yourself. I'm not asking you to believe me here. Oh, 2 cases. Okay, look, one's closed, one's open, filed on March 5th, 2020. So we don't have to go to that Twitter user who posted the screenshot. Here it is. Here's one of them. So the allegation is concerted activities, retaliation, discharge, and discipline. Now, from my understanding here is that this has been withdrawn because it says closed. And in April, there was a letter approving withdrawal request. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means, but I guess it would mean they had a request to withdraw and the letter approved it. What am I, Dave Rubin over here? So, but this is the section that the guy had highlighted. Gregory Hessinger, that's the lawyer that they're talking about. Mitchell, Silverberg, and Knupp. The charged party is the Young Turks. The charging party is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. So Mitchell, Silverberg, and Knupp. That's the union that they're that's the law firm they're talking about. Let's go back to our chart. Remember this one? Hiring management side law and consultant firms. Okay, let's Google them. I did that. I found their website, MSK. You can do this yourself. Click on what we do. Let's see. Okay, they do corporate. All right. Entertainment. Immigration, of course. Who doesn't? Specialties. I have a few of those. No, I was going to say something really, really naughty about what I like to do to women on a successful third date. That's not appropriate for this moment. Spotlight. The labor and employment section. What do? Here's the full practice. Our department's attorneys spend their time as full-service management-side employment counsel, providing both traditional labor law and employment law services. Well, how nice. Our comprehensive knowledge of the extensively regulated employment relationship fosters practical advice in planning, compliance, and human resources problem solving. What do? Oh my God. What? Union avoidance. Young Turks hired a company or a law firm that does union avoidance? Well, if I were funding TYT with my monthly membership, I would want to know that. Managing union relations, collective bargaining, labor litigation, managing labor disputes, managing corporate change. Man. So they're a management side, anti-worker, anti-union law firm. And I guarantee this kind of place ain't cheap. I'm so naive, I would be like, I don't know, like $100 an hour, but it's way higher. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but we all know these. Did you see where their address was? Madison Avenue in New York. Hot shot city. These are some expensive fucking attorneys. But okay, you know what? This one is closed. who knows how much they actually use that. That could be one of those journalisms that Anna should do and see maybe the TYT audience or maybe Jonathan Larson, the TYT journalist guy, would like to investigate. Ken Klippenstein, the intrepid, the one and only, I really like him, worked for TYT for a stretch. Not that I'm suggesting he do this, but had he still been working there, I would probably say his name. I just like the guy. He's just likable. Somehow he has the magic of Twitter so figured out in a way that I do not. I am bad at it. Let's click on the open one though. This is actually a different law firm. So this one is not yet concluded, it seems. It's still open. The latest update is 9/29/21. RD order to reschedule hearing. I don't know what RD means, but so they're rescheduling something. That happens. That seems to happen a lot. Complaints, notices, answers. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is related to the firing of a worker. I know that was one of the things that there were some NLRB filings. Well, that's what we're looking at. Click on the next page, sign charge on. Okay, so that's just the first entry. All right. Allegations, coercive statements, threats, promises of benefit, discharge, including layoff and refusal to hire, not salting. Concerted activities, retaliation, discharge, discipline, discharge of supervisor, Park Rob Chevrolet, coercive rules, interrogation. So these are like, I don't know. I'm too dumb I shouldn't even, but like, I'm only going to say, I'm ignorant about what these, like, whenever I see these kind of like parentheses-y legal code statute things, I just go, oh, that's like a lot of stuff that lawyers are supposed to understand and judges pretend to understand. I don't really know what these are. I don't think we can interpret too much from this. But we can see who the law firm is. They've got three lawyers, Danielle Young, David Campbell, Donald Slezak, perfect name. And the charged party is the Young Turks. The charging party is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. So remember, I'm not calling out that they were charged. So you can charge them with whatever, and then they have to answer it. I'm calling out the law firms that they hired. Lewis, Brisbois, Bisgard, and Smith, LLP. They have a website. Let's see. I clicked on our practice. They do a lot of stuff. There's a labor section down here in the L's. Traditional labor. Just see what they have to say. Oh boy, this is like a warning. The National Labor Relations Board has continued its attempts to significantly expand its influence over the American workforce over the past few years. Like, I would read that and be like, good, we need more governmental regulation on all the ways that sketchy employers exploit workers and treat their workers like shit. But this is like a warning. Despite the continuous decline in union membership since the 1980s, this expansion has come at great cost to the unwitting non-union employer surprised by a union organizational effort or facing an NLRB charge of interfering with an employee rights protected by Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. Oh, man. You could read this for yourself. So what this one jumped out at me: union awareness, training, and prevention. So this is there was a part where they said their management side. Was that on just the beginning? I think that was just right at the very beginning. Anyway, it doesn't take much for you to see that this is another anti-worker, anti-progressive. Well, maybe they would tell themselves they're progressives, but they work for bosses. Union awareness training. Do you think Cenk and his crew went there and they had to jump through like obstacle courses and stuff and like dodged unions? They got like a bald skeleton, which is me, going like, nah. Jumping out from around a corner. I took my training. Step 1, turn the audience against them. That's a good move. Did someone advise them to do that? That's a question they could answer. But the core of the thing is I think that the Young Turks audience deserves an explanation for how much money that they've spent, they, meaning the members, have spent on union busting, on these two law firms. So under their legacy section under our story, one of the entities that they represent is the AMPTP. They mention it twice here. Writing the law. MSK Labor and Employment Practice represented the AMPTP before the National Labor Relations Board and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court in a watershed case, American Broadcasting et al. Versus Writers Guild of America, against a worker union, which held that WGA could not legally fine members who crossed WGA picket line in order to perform producing, not writing duties. Throughout its history, MSK has regularly represented the entertainment industry's multi-employer bargaining association in high-stakes arbitrations under the various guild and union contracts. MSK has always been at the forefront of representing management in labor and employment law matters in a wide variety of industries and settings. The AMPTP, has that been in the news recently? Has that been somewhere in the news lately? Let's just search for AMPTP here. Let's just see what comes up. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. Huh. Oh, they're who IATSE is negotiating against. They're the ones who represent the evil billionaire bosses that force the employees of IATSE to work these terrible hours. The strike, the 60,000 members of IATSE. Again, I want to repeat, the Young Turks Union, I don't believe, is in that agreement. They have their own carved out agreement, so they're not necessarily part of this strike action that's about to happen. But the two sides of that fight are the AMTP, PTP, and IATSE. Young Turks law firm, at least the one that represented that one case there, is proudly announcing that they are management side in favor of the AMPTP. Let's jump back into our video we were watching earlier. Okay. And let's just see. First of all, I just want to do this one again because this one's just so funny. I don't know either. Oh, there I am on my way to work. Got to get it. Okay, good. So here's the announcement where Cenk is talking about how happy he is to be working with IATSE. Remember, this guy's been writing checks to a union, a law firm that is proud to be part of AMT or to be representing and litigating cases on behalf of the owners of the entertainment industry.
Especially given the juxtaposition of what's happening now. IATSE has over 60,000 members, and they just voted to strike against the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers.
Against the bad, evil bosses of the entertainment industry, who we called in a panic to get advice on which law firm to hire.
They haven't yet done the strike, but they voted overwhelmingly in favor of the strike, so that IATSE has that in their back pocket. And as I was looking at the numbers that they're getting from massive companies, whether they're in traditional old school movies, TV, etc., or they're the new streamers that are trillion-dollar companies, you know, we do so much better for.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not even sure what conclusion there is to draw about that. It just found it interesting that he mentions the exact organization that the, because this strike and the IATSE actions that are coming up are going to be big news, especially if they interrupt the next season of Downton Abbey. I don't know who Mary is going to choose to marry. I have to find out. And what about Edith? Will she ever find love? So it's fine. I'm not saying there's any secret coded messages in that at all. I just noticed that there is a interesting threads connecting the National Labor Relations Board activities. And I imagine this other law firm here, Lewis, Brisbois, Bisgard, and Smith. Sounds like one of like the SARS guards, like if they had like a nephew that they didn't, that embarrassed them. That the NLRB case here, this first one that's closed, that was hired by the Young Turks, Mitchell Silberberg and Knupp, reported by Means TV. This law firm here on the NLRB website that TYT hired when they had a charge filed is the same law firm that works with a lot of these companies that are abusing all the workers in IATSE. I'm not even asking anybody. I mean, you can draw your own conclusions. I don't think there's much to necessarily conclude from that. I don't necessarily even think that this means Cenk wants all those workers to be abused. I'm just talking about where the money's going. That's quantifiable. Where does TYT get its money? Venture funding, venture capitalist funding, advertisers, and members. And I think that the members deserve and have a right to demand how much of their money went to these law firms. That doesn't seem like an unreasonable thing to expect from a company that prides itself on boldly pursuing truth. Where is it? There it is. Boldly pursue the truth. There we are, right there. Inspiring. There it is. Oh, there we go. What's the truth? Should you fund the union company that defends the establishment? Do TYT members, would they take kindly to the notion that they are defending the establishment? I don't know. And I hope that people continue to support TYT, because I know a lot of good people work there, and I think that they need to change a little and need to recognize that this domineering capitalist mindset, of which Cenk is an avowed defender and proponent. If you watch the debate between him and his nephew about capitalism, he throws out every stupid fucking bromide that's out there about why capitalism is natural and how it's lifted people out of poverty, and it's all this bullshit about how wonderful capitalism is. But you need to have a mixed economy. You got to have some capitalism and a little bit of health. I mean, anyway, the guy is, his origin story is one of being a former Republican. He was a Republican. He actually...
I used to be a Republican.
And he evolved into a progressive. He claims to be a progressive. I mostly believe it. But he still is a staunch defender of capitalism. So I have to wonder, like, even though he says he's no longer Republican, I think it's weird that he still practices their religion, which is hierarchy, which is dominance, which is domination, subjugation, work relationships. And the point I made in a previous podcast I did about this stuff is that, like, there's actually a really big market for people to make money off of putting out socialist ideals into videos. Chapo Trap House, Hasanabi, there's others. Make big money. There's good money to be made. There's always going to be money to be made in this entertainment world, in this audience, until the electricity goes out. We have to start forming, cannibalistic cults and stuff. So I hope TYT persists. I don't want this to hurt TYT. I want TYT to live up to the principles that drove me to move across the country when I first moved to LA from Chicago to go work for them. I thought I was going to fight for the good people. I thought I was going to fight for honesty. Honesty is really big for me. Honesty is like, there's kind of nothing else really. And I don't think that they've been honest about this. I know for a fact the conspiracy spinning that they threw at their workers was deliberate dishonesty against the very people who make them look and sound good, without whom they wouldn't have careers, whose labor they exploit for their own personal enrichment and personal benefit. And they're the very same people who, when they cried out for help, they were attacked with political bullshit that they probably got from these fucking law firms that are just part of the evil empire. And that is being paid for by Young Turks members. Come on. And some of them are going to think I'm the bad guy because I'm bringing this up. Well, they don't. First of all, don't worry. I can't reach anybody. Nobody gives a shit what I have to say. But this will be on my YouTube channel. If I have to re-edit it to take out the TYT parts, if they go after me for the copyright system, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do, I'll re-edit it and I'll upload it. But I'm going to keep this up, and I would like to talk to more people about it. I'd like to do more stories about it. It's exhausting. I'd rather build beautiful candle holders for friends and lovers and acquaintances and former enemies This one's actually walnut. It's not, I haven't stained it yet. Walnut it's kind of a beautiful grayish wood when it's just like regular without oil. But when you oil it, it just soaks it up and becomes this rich, luscious, warm oranges and browns. And it's beautiful wood, man. Can't get enough of walnut. So there's other things to life in this stuff. But when your friends are attacked, when you're attacked, you know, you're supposed to stand up for yourself. WWCD. I have an ankle bracelet on. It says WWCD. What would Cenk do? Would he just lie down and take it? We all know he wouldn't. He would hire somebody he'd underpay to make a video about it. That's what he would do. Okay. All right. So we'll end on Bernie Sanders, my man, my guy. Colin Powell died today. Man, I'm sorry, just thinking about how when Bernie dies, I'm going to feel it pretty hard. Like, it's going to be a tragedy when he dies. It's sad. I mean, he's old. It's, you know, it's fine. He made it. But, like, he did a lot. Colin Powell died, and it's so gross watching how America does this whole revisionist history bullshit and this immediate, like, oh, we had a couple of flubs. Like, he got millions of people killed. He killed 1 million. He helped kill tens of thousands or whatever American troops and soldiers, and as well as 1 million Iraqis. Mass murderer Colin Powell. He was a good man of integrity, except for the part where he helped lie a bunch of evil war profiteers into one of the worst criminal war crimes of history. There's been a lot. There's got to be a lot of competition for that. Anyway, Bernie's not as bad as Colin Powell. I just hate that shit. See, like this podcast is often just me rambling about other stuff, or maybe I was going to go on and on about the Mormons doing soakings. They're having sex, but God can't figure it out because God's like the predator. He can only detect heat, not movement. So they just put it in there and hold still, covered in mud. What's that movie with Robert Redford where he has to walk slowly across the laser room or to steal a diamond or something? Anyway, here's Bernie Sanders hanging out with his best boy, two baldies. See, now if I should have put skeletons on these faces right here. I got to meet the guy, shook his hand. He's taller. He's like 6 foot. I'm a little taller. I'm like 6'3". I got a nice height there. But yeah, Bernie, there it is. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope this was interesting. I really should make a much smaller version because who in their right mind would listen to some whack job ramble about this stuff for this long? But thank you if you have. And check out some of my other stuff. Links in the description. YouTube channel Suck Professor is where I have that Valheim playthrough, plus some podcasts about movies and stuff I do with my roommate. There's a whole lot of content on that channel. And I let's see what else. Oh, Bum Rush Industries. That's my woodworking outfit. I started a woodworking thing, and I hope to build that up too, because I'd like to build a business that gets me out of LA, and I'd love to work in a woodworking shop, make documentaries. It's also kind of why I'm doing this too, to shake off my editing rust, but I want to make documentaries about things, live socialist principles, run a socialist business. If it expands, I'd like to make it a co-op. I'm trying to build shit stools out of found furniture and construction lumber, and I get wood from where I work, which is great. So I have a lot of access to like walnut and oak and some other types of some eucalyptus and stuff. Just their cutoffs are just beautiful, man. So a lot of cool woodworking products. And I had a Patreon. I'm not asking anybody to pay. I've had ups and downs, but eventually I'd like to get on there. I don't expect that to, turn into anything until I get really, really consistent and stuff and start having guests and whatnot. So, yeah, would be good to get back to. I miss stand-up a bunch too. Sorry, now I'm just going on about what I'm missing. But bye, everybody. Good night. Take care of yourself. Clean the squash out of your genitals and get to bed. You got work in the morning. Bye.